So there I was, standing on the side of the road, about to throw myself under a car on purpose. Not my proudest morning. Let me back up. My name is Bufan. I'm a broke third-year med student. I'm an orphan, and my adoptive mom is lying in a hospital bed, needing 50,000 yuan for brain surgery I cannot pay. I tried borrowing it. Every relative I have looked at me like I'd asked to borrow a kidney. What does your mother living or dying have to do with me? Real heartwarming family mine. So I did the math a desperate broke person does. Stage an accident. Pick a nice car. Take the hit. Collect the settlement. Save mom. Against my conscience, sure, but conscience doesn't cover surgery. I read the online guides and everything. You jump out, the driver slams the brakes, you lie down under the wheel, you cry, you get paid. Foolproof. So when a red Maserati rolled up nice and slow, I thought, that's the one. Rich car, rich payout. I did not account for the driver being a girl who'd gotten her license the day before. Instead of hitting the brakes, she screamed, took both hands off the wheel, and covered her eyes. Both hands, off the wheel. And then, somehow, she hit the gas. Beautiful. 10 out of 10. Would not recommend the experience. The Maserati launched me like a kite with a snapped string. Every bone in my body filed for divorce at once. I coughed up a bucket of blood mid-air, and my last thought before the lights went out was a genuine life lesson. Never stage an accident on a female driver. Then I died. Sort of. Give me a second. Here's the part the crowd didn't notice. The blood I coughed up splattered onto the old jade pendant around my neck. The only thing I had when mom adopted me. Never took it off. And the jade drank it. All of it. Instantly. And a voice detonated inside my skull like a gong going off in a closet. Junior Bufan, take over my legacy, the ancient medical sect. Then an old Taoist with a white beard and blue robes just moved into my head, rent-free, introduced himself as Ye Xiaoyao, some ancient master of medicine, told me I'd earned his legacy, that I now had to uphold the rules of the sect, heal the sick, save the world, the whole fortune cookie starter pack. And then a fire hose of information poured into my brain. Martial arts, cultivation techniques, medical methods, mystic arts. Skills I'd never studied, slotting into my memory like they'd always been there. The jade cooked hotter and hotter until it melted into a river of raw energy and flooded my whole body, knitting my broken bones back together, upgrading the muscle, patching the near-fatal damage like a system update installing while I slept. I felt incredible. Then I passed out from feeling too incredible. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed under a wall of white light, and my first coherent thought was that a concussion dream? Then I touched my chest. The jade was gone, just a red string left, and the mountain of knowledge in my head was still sitting there, crystal clear, every technique explained. Not a dream. I really had inherited an entire lost medical sect off one very stupid car accident. You're awake. I turned my head and forgot how words work. There was a face leaning over me that had no business existing. Long, flowing hair, flawless everything, a figure the office blouse was losing a fight against. I'd seen airbrushed celebrities on TV who couldn't stand in this woman's shadow. Purely from an academic standpoint, of course. I'm a medical professional. I'm so sorry, she said. My name's Chin Choo Choo. I just got my license yesterday and I hit you today. Yeah, no kidding. The hands-off-the-wheel prodigy herself. Here's the thing, though. I wasn't even mad. I jumped in front of her car trying to scam her, and instead of a lawsuit, I got a superpower and a full-body tune-up. If anything, I owed the woman a fruit basket. She promised to cover every yuan of my medical bill until I was fully recovered. Rich, gorgeous, and guilty enough to pay. My kind of hit and run. Then she mentioned I'd been out for half a day. Half a day. Mom. Surgery. Still dying across town. I shot up out of that bed. Because here's the funny part. I didn't need 50,000 yuan for a surgeon anymore. I didn't need a surgeon at all. I had an entire immortal medical sect crammed in my head. I could fix my mother myself. I grabbed Choo Choo's hand. Panic, not flirting, mostly panic. Asked where I was, heard Central Hospital, and bolted. Shoes on, out the door, sprinting across the city toward Jiangnan Hospital where Mom was. Grabbed a pack of silver acupuncture needles from a pharmacy on the way and shoved them in my pocket. I made it to the ICU just in time to hear a doctor say the worst possible sentence. The patient is confirmed dead. Proceed to the next step. A nurse was already reaching for the white sheet to cover my mother. Stop! What are you doing? Sir, the patient is deceased. Nonsense, Mom isn't dead. And here's where the new eyeballs earned their keep. One look, and I could read her whole condition like a chart printed in the air. She wasn't dead. She was in that razor-thin window before death, suspended, flickering, not gone, yet. I shoved the nurse aside, whipped out the needles, and went in fast. One needle, then another, threading her acupoints faster than anyone in that room could process. The doctor, Xie Hai Tao, remember that name, we're going to hate him together, recognized me and started running his mouth. Kid, she's dead. Playing the filial son? If you were so filial, you'd have paid the 50,000 and she'd still be breathing. No money? All drama. I despise people like you. He kept talking. I kept working. This is the ICU, he reminds me. It's billed by the hour, and you still owe from before, as if I'm racking up a tab while I resurrect my own mother. I set the last needle, and the monitor beeped. Then beeped again. Then found a rhythm. Her heartbeat crawled back. 1, 2. Slow at first, then steady. Xie Haitao's face did a thing. His jaw came unhinged. 30 seconds ago, the woman had 0 vital signs. Now she was sitting up asking, "Son, where am I?" "Mom, you're finally awake." I didn't just patch the brain hemorrhage either. While I was in there, I cleaned up every other little ailment hiding in her body. She walked out of that ICU healthier than the doctors treating her, or she would have, because Xie Haitao threw his arms across the door. "You can leave after you settle the bill." Mom, sweet woman who's terrified of hospital prices, asks how much. He says it like it's nothing. 39,800 for less than 1 day, in which I did the actual saving. I looked at the itemized bill and my mood dropped through the floor. I may not have graduated, but I'm a med student. I can read a prescription. My mother had a cerebral hemorrhage, and this genius billed her for antithrombotic drugs, heart meds, and what were essentially aphrodisiacs. Plus IV bags. So many IV bags, they'd weigh over 25 kilos. "You dripped 25 kilos of fluid into her in under a day," I said. "An elephant couldn't take that. You want to tell me all of this went into my mother?" Xie Haitao opened his mouth. Nothing came out. He'd sized us up as clueless and prescribed a random pharmacy at us for the kickback. Standard scam. He just didn't expect the clueless kid to read Latin. I lifted him off the floor by his collar and introduced him to the wall. And that, honestly, felt better than any painkiller he never actually gave her. Now, I was ready to end this guy right there. But the universe, which apparently books its plot twists tight, chose that exact second to open the ICU door. A middle-aged man ran in carrying a limp 10-year-old boy, screaming for a doctor. A nurse whispered that the kid had been personally sent by the head of the Municipal Health Bureau. Treat him no matter what. Suddenly, Xie Haitao remembered he had a spine. He shifted into fake competent mode, laid the boy down, gave him a look, and announced with total confidence, "Just a bad cold, little fever, shot of antipyretic, he'll be fine." I looked at the same boy and saw something very different. That's not a cold. Give him a fever shot, and you'll kill him. "What do you know? Are you the doctor or am I?" He jammed the antipyretic in. For a moment, the kid's color came back, and Xie Haitao got to be smug for exactly 1 paragraph. The dad thanked him, called his skills superb, the works. Then the boy's face twisted. His arms started jerking, foam at the mouth, the monitor screaming, blood pressure crashing, heart rate falling off a cliff. "Doctor, what's happening? He's my only son!" Xie Haitao stood there with his mouth open, contributing nothing. Because his diagnosis was a cold, and a cold does not do this. His entire plan had been, copy whatever the kid did, and he'd skip the part where you understand it. I'll do it. I couldn't stand there and watch a child die on a technicality. I stepped in and told them flat, this was never a cold. It's poisoning. Needles out, straight into the chest acupoints, one after another. And if you looked close, the needle tips were trembling. A little thread of my energy running down each one, doing the real work under the surface. The dad tried to charge me. "What right does a patient's family have to touch my son?" And stopped mid-sentence. Because the convulsions had stopped, the foam had stopped, color was flooding back into the boy's face, and the monitor had gone quiet and normal. Then I pricked both his index fingers and squeezed out 2 drops of black blood into the trash, pulled the needles, and the boy sat up and looked around like he'd woken from a nap. "Miracle doctor! You're a miracle doctor!" Turns out the kid had touched a bat, and he wasn't the only one. 12 children from the same primary school had handled the same bat, all crashing with the same never-before-seen virus that wasn't in any national database and had no known treatment. The health bureau had scattered them across every hospital in the city, praying somebody could crack it. The dad stuffed 2 thick stacks of hundreds into my hand and left cursing Xie Haitao's name, and I took the money. No hesitation. Sect rule number 1. The consultation fee is decided by fate. A mountain of gold isn't too much. A single copper isn't too little. Mom watched me go from broke to cash in about 90 seconds and looked like she needed a doctor herself. Now here's where Xie Haitao made his masterpiece mistake. The bureau chief, Zhou Yongyang, walked in and asked where his patient was. And Xie Haitao, who had cured exactly 0 people that day, puffed up and said, "I cured him, completely." He stole my credit, right in front of me. I could have torched him on the spot, but I didn't. I smiled instead, because if you want to steal a genius's work, you'd better be a genius. Let's watch you get out of this one. The chief was so thrilled he got on the phone and made it worse. Transfer every infected child to Jiangnan Hospital. Dr. Xie has the cure. 1 case became 12 incoming. Xie Haitao's face went the color of old cheese. The big one arrived in 2 black luxury cars. Dong Tianda, chairman of Tianda Group, owns half the restaurants in the city from Michelin down to street stalls. Billions in assets. Donates 7 figures to hospitals a year. And his unconscious son on a stretcher. 3 generations, 1 heir. That kind of stakes. Dr. Xie, save my son and Tianda Group will reward you beyond your dreams. Xie Haitao, who had watched me do this exactly once, took a deep breath and started copying my technique from memory. First needle. Second, he even remembered some of the acupoints. Confidence high. Third needle. The boy immediately started foaming, convulsing, flatlining. Monitor screaming, color gone, the whole horror show. Because acupuncture isn't a dance you mimic. There was a current running through my needles he didn't have and couldn't fake. He'd copied the choreography and none of the magic. Dong Tianda grabbed him by the throat. "Do you even know medicine? What did you do to my son?" And Xie Haitao stood there sweating through his coat, needle shaking in his hand. No fourth move, no answers, the whole "I see you" staring, until the nurse finally cracked and said the sentence that ended him. The one who cured that child wasn't Dr. Xie. It was the patient's family outside. Ye Bufan. Xie Haitao's legs gave out. He sat down on the floor of his own crime scene. Dong Tianda didn't waste 1 second on him. He ran straight out to me. "Young man, save my son. Name your price." "Can do." I walked back in, stepped over the puddle formerly known as Xie Haitao, and went to work. Monitor screaming, then quiet, convulsions, then stillness. 2 drops of poison blood, needles out, and the boy sat up in bed. Dong Tianda grabbed both my hands. 3 generations, 1 son. "You didn't just save my boy. You saved my whole family. My brother just finished building a new restaurant. Consider it a consultation fee. I'll transfer the deed the moment I get home." A restaurant. As a tip. He wasn't being reckless either. The man was a shark. Befriending a doctor who can drag you back from the edge is worth more than any building. All the money in the world only spends if you're alive to spend it. He left his number, gave me a card, told me to call if I ever needed anything, and walked out thanking me on repeat with the rest of the parents filing behind him. Every one of those 12 kids got treated. By me. And when the last one sat up, Chief Joe exhaled like a man who'd just kept his career, because the whole city's leadership had been watching this outbreak. Then I finally cashed in the moment I'd been saving. I pulled out my mother's bill and handed it to Chief Joe and Dean Ma. This is what Dr. Xie charged my mother. $39,008 in under a day for a brain hemorrhage. And he billed her heart pills, anti-clotting drugs, basically aphrodisiacs, and enough IV fluid to drown a cow. 2 men who'd spent their lives in medicine read the fraud in about 4 seconds. Dean Ma took the receipt and backhanded Xie Haitao across the face with it. "You stole another man's work and you built this on top of it? You're done. Fired. This second." I wasn't quite finished. Dean Ma, smuggling drugs and inventing charges? That's not just unethical. That's a police matter. And I doubt today was his first time. Might want to dig. Xie Haitao dropped to his knees, snot and tears everywhere, begging for pity. "Elderly parents, young kids, please." And I looked at the man who'd let my mother be pronounced dead over money, and I felt exactly nothing. "You want me to pity you? Did you ever pity the patients? Do you know how those families scraped their money together? Selling houses, selling land. Money meant to keep the people they love alive. And you scribbled a fake receipt and robbed them. That's 10 times worse than a mugging. So tell me again why I should pity you." He collapsed like someone cut his strings. Security dragged him out to go turn himself in. Dean Ma apologized, waived Mom's entire bill, and threw in another $30,000 as a thank you. He also tried very hard to hire me on the spot. Chief physician, effective immediately, replaced the guy I'd just gotten arrested. At a top hospital that wouldn't glance at a normal grad. That's how badly he wanted the hands in my head. I turned him down. Western Hospital, and I do things the old way. He offered to build me a whole traditional medicine wing, until that down too. I don't want a hospital's rules. I want my own clinic. And I want to drag traditional medicine back into the light where it belongs. He looked genuinely sad about it, told me the door stays open. I took the money and left, past 9 at night. I called Mom to say I was safe, then called my girlfriend, Zhu Lin Lin. "The number you have dialed is powered off." Right. Lin Lin had vanished the day break started. Couldn't reach her, couldn't see her, phone dark for days. "File that under, we'll come back to it." Loudly. Back at the empty dorm, everyone else went home for summer. I sat cross-legged and cultivated for the first time on purpose, running the Chaos Heart Sutra the old master left me. Warm energy rose out of my core and looped through my body along the paths in my head, and it felt better every hour. By sunrise, I'd hit the 9th level of chi refinement, one step from foundation establishment. Overnight. And I'd unlocked a new toy, Divine Sense. Eyes closed, I could feel everything within 2 meters. Eyes open, X-ray vision. Walls didn't stop it, neither did people. I could see straight through to bone, blood, and meridians. Hold that thought. It's about to ruin a man's entire life in public. Because the next morning, walking past the Chins Group Tower, I hit a crowd. Red Porsche 911 in the plaza, 999 roses in a heart, and a slick young guy in a suit holding blue roses, clearly waiting to propose to somebody. One look with my new eyes, and I could read him too. Pale, drained, weak. A man who'd spent his whole body on booze and women. Then something soft bumped into me. Chin Choo Choo, my favorite hit-and-run driver, in office clothes, not looking where she was going. We both apologized on reflex, then both realized who we were and said it at the same time. "It's you!" "What?" I said. "Running me over yesterday wasn't enough." "So today you switched to running me over on foot." She wasn't in the mood. "I need your help, right now. Pretend to be my boyfriend for a few minutes." I looked at Porsche guy. "That one's chasing you?" "His name's Xiang Yun Tian. He follows me around like a stalker with a florist budget." "So date him. He's not as handsome as me, but he's passable." "I'm being serious. Are you helping or not?" "Nope. I have a girlfriend." Her chest went up and down like a pressure cooker. Then she smiled, sweet and evil. "You won't help?" "Funny. I just came from the traffic police, watched the footage. Yesterday wasn't me hitting you. That was you scamming me." "I'll help. I don't help just anyone, but for you, absolutely. It's only pretend." Amazing how fast my principals negotiate. Xiang Yun Tian walked over with the blue roses and the gentleman act. "Choo Choo, flowers for you. Hope your day's beautiful." It was beautiful. Then I saw you. She grabbed my arm. "I already have a boyfriend. This is him. Ye Bufan." He looked me up and down and sneered. "Choo Choo, if you're going to hire a fake boyfriend, at least buy quality. You expect me to believe this?" "You looking down on me?" I said. "Is that a question? Respect is earned. 8 figures in your account? No. $1 million a year salary? No. Our Shang family is worth over $100 million, and I'm the only heir. What exactly do you bring?" The crowd started doing what crowds do, whispering that the poor kid never stood a chance, that of course she'd pick the young master. He pointed at the Porsche. 3 million yuan car, gift for Choo Choo. These blue roses were flown in from Europe, 500 a stem, more than your whole outfit. A pauper like you has no right to even stand near her. I kept my face flat. So only rich men are allowed to like Choo Choo? Or are you saying Choo Choo's a gold digger who only cares about money? He short-circuited. Of course that's not what I meant. Because that's the trap, isn't it? She's the Chin heiress. His 100 million is pocket change to her family. His whole pitch was that money buys her, and I just made him say it to her face. He scrambled to recover, going full sincere, telling her his love was real, how scared he was when he heard about her accident, how he bought her a new car on the spot. Money's nothing. Only his devotion matters. The planted chills in the crowd started chanting, be together, and he dropped to one knee with the roses. Choo Choo, from the moment I saw you, I was captivated for life. My heart is full of only you. If I've told a single lie, may lightning strike me down. That was the line. That was the invitation. Really? I said. Then let's show everyone exactly how full of you your heart is. I reached into his suit, faster than he could flinch, and pulled out a small white object, a pair of women's underwear. The extremely not for church kind, practically transparent. Young Master Xiang, care to explain? 6 months eyes only for Choo Choo, and yet, where'd this come from? Please don't tell me it's yours. He turned to color. See, it wasn't that he hadn't seen a woman in 6 months. It's that he saw a different one most nights and kept a souvenir pair every time. And last night's hadn't been laundered out of the jacket yet. A lace thong smaller than a handkerchief, impossible to spot in a pocket. So how did I find it? The X-ray vision I'm definitely not telling anyone about. That's how. The crowd turned on him like weather. Confessing his love with another woman's underwear in his pocket. Shameless. Didn't he say lightning should strike him? He tried the classic. A friend borrowed this suit for a date yesterday. He must have. And this? I pulled a pink object out of his other pocket. Durex, I believe. Also the friends? And this? 2 little white pills from the next pocket. The famous morning after pill, if I'm not wrong. Full kit. Your friend really packs a bag. Choo Choo looked at the growing pile of evidence with pure disgust. Xiang Yun Tian, leave. I never want to see you again. His scheme detonated in his own face, and he snapped. You bastard, I'll kill you! Air's gone. He swung at my head. His body, wrecked by wine and women, was not built for this. One kick to the gut, and he went flying into all 999 thorny roses. He screamed. Not from the fall, from the thorns, which he wore home like a suit. He climbed up covered in them, spat a threat about stealing his woman, turned to storm off, and stepped directly onto a manhole cover that flipped and swallowed him with a splash. He crawled back out wearing the sewer. The crowd lost it. And now they loved me, cheering the poor kid who'd just done what they all wished someone would do to these young masters. Choo-Choo pulled me aside, eyes burning. How did you know what was in his pocket? I was not about to say X-ray vision. I'm a traditional medicine man. One look and I could tell the kid had severe kidney deficiency. The rest, I guessed. She let it go, promised me dinner after work, and walked into the tower, already late. And I strolled off to buy some herbs, riding the high of a very good morning, straight into the next problem. Because the herbs I needed for my first proper pill were about to cost more than a car. The clinic was called Baikao Hall, the biggest traditional medicine house in the city, all antique wood and a fancy couplet on the door about how a real healer never deceives. Cute. Because the only guy at the counter was a clerk named Lu Hong playing mobile games, and when I asked for herbs, he told me to wait without looking up. 10 minutes of watching him lose at King of Glory later, he finally rang me up. 253,000 yuan. For one dose. I had 30 grand and a dream. And the second the number embarrassed me, his smile flipped to a sneer. No money? Then stop wasting my time, beggar. Places like this are for the rich and the officials, not trash off the street. I almost lost it. Then I remembered I inherited a lost immortal sect, and this was a guy who peaked at customer service. Not worth it. I turned to leave, and saw the poster on the wall. $1,000,000 reward. Master Chao Xinghua, the head of the whole place, had come into a fragment of Hua Tuo's golden formula. 15 ingredients readable, 3 missing. Complete the last 3, walk out a millionaire. Now here's a thing you learn when an ancient medical sect moves into your skull. Hua Tuo? Sect guy. Outer disciple, actually. That legendary formula was intro-level homework where I'm from. So I picked up the brush and started filling in blanks. I got 2 down before Liu Hong came flying out to shove me off. Who let you scribble on the reward, you penniless wretch? 10,000 herbs in China, you think you'll guess 3? Lottery odds are better. The whole speech. And that's exactly when a dignified old man walked over. White beard, ruddy face, eyes like a man who'd read every medical text printed. Master Cao himself. He glanced at the wall, saw my 2 answers, and froze mid-step. Liu Hong kept yapping, oblivious, narrating how he'd stopped the beggar just in time. Cao turned and slapped him clean across the face. Apologize to this young man, now! Watching that clerk's brain reboot was its own small reward. I wasn't feeling gracious. Big shop, bullying customers. Your door says a healer doesn't deceive himself. Baikao Hall isn't worthy of the words. Cao apologized twice more, then grabbed my sleeve like I might evaporate. Young man, can you really finish the formula? Yeah, I could. So I told him the truth. I'd have finished it. But his people said not just anyone gets to write on the wall. So clearly we weren't meant to be. Good luck. And I turned to go. He nearly took my arm off, stopping me. This formula was life and death for someone he loved. Days left. He wheeled on Liu Hong and told him to kneel and beg or get fired forever. And in this town, fired by Master Cao means unhirable for life. So the clerk dropped to his knees, slapped himself twice, and begged. I waved him up. Not worth my afternoon. Then Cao told him to wrap all my herbs. Free, 250 grand, gift, and please just finish the formula. I filled in the last blank, white clover, and the old man about levitated. But then he studied it and frowned. 2 herbs clashed, he said. Incompatible, sharp. He was right that there was an error. He just had the wrong herb. It's not Angelica, I told him. The character was smudged. It's Atractylodes. Similar look, completely different medicine. He stared. Then his whole face lit up like a lantern. Everything clicked. Liu Hong stood there realizing he'd almost gotten fired over a man who corrects grandmasters for fun. Cao wrote the $1,000,000 check on the spot. I told him to at least deduct the herbs. He said absolutely not. That would insult him. The formula was priceless, and I'd helped him save an old friend dying of lung disease. So I asked to see this friend. And here's where I had to be the bad news guy. Grandpa, the golden formula doesn't cure anything. His face fell off. Every ancient text called it a golden cure. So I explained. It's not a cure. It's a painkiller. The best one ever made. Late-stage cancer, pancreatitis, the pain that breaks people. This ends it. No addiction, no side effects. It earned the name Golden from the dying who'd have paid a city to make the agony stop, which meant his friend, hoping for a cure, was out of luck. Then I watched the hope drain out of the old man, and I couldn't take it. Relax, the formula can't save him, but I can. 80%, I told him, very modest. It was a lung disease. Compared to what's in my head, that's a splinter. He nearly drove his Audi into a truck when I said the words, 9 needles of resurrection. The technique's so legendary, it's supposed to yank souls back from the two reapers themselves. I had to grab the wheel. Old men should not learn about miracle acupuncture while merging. The friend turned out to be He Changqing, patriarch of the He family, a veteran who fought alongside the founders of the country, one son a general, one a high provincial official, one a rich businessman. In this city, the He name opens any door, and the old lion was dying. We barely reached the bedside before somebody yelled, "Stop! Don't touch my grandfather!" Meet He Shuangshuang. Early 20s, ponytail, deputy captain of criminal investigation, studied in America, and allergic to traditional medicine on principle. She looked at me, younger than her, and laughed. Him? Treat grandpa? Did he even finish med school? Traditional medicine's a joke, and a baby-faced version of it is a bigger one. Then she rolled out her own guy, Dr. Gao Haisheng, PhD from the States, big Beijing internal medicine name, 20-odd papers, about to join the World Medical Association. The resume recited like scripture. And the first thing this expert did was sneer. With me here, you don't need quacks. Can grassroots and rotten bark cure anything? My face went cold. Show off all you want. Don't spit on my sect while you do it. Gao ran every scan his assistants could carry. Then he sighed the sigh. He's terminal. Prepare for the funeral. That's the part I couldn't swallow. All those degrees, all that swagger, and the deliverable is start planning the wake. So I said it out loud. You studied abroad for years to teach families how to book a funeral home? Kid, watch your mouth. Doctors aren't gods. Nobody can cure this. Nobody? Who gave you the authority to speak for every doctor alive? So we bet. He cures nothing. I cure the old lion. And he publicly apologizes to every traditional healer in China. If I lose, my brand new million-yuan check is his. He took it, smug. A terminal patient, free money. Shuang threw herself in front of the bed. You are not allowed to touch my grandfather. He's not a prop for your bet. Fine. Diagnosis first. No touching. 4 methods. Look, listen, ask, feel. And I only needed the first. Old gunshot wound, left lung, when he was young. Healed badly. Years of drinking, a cold on top, and the lung disease flared. Her face changed. Word for word what the old man always said. Still stubborn. So what's wrong with him now? So I read it back like a scan printout. Thickened lung markings, blunted costophrenic angle, pleural adhesion and effusion, old scarring up top, fibrosis worsening. Even Gao, holding the actual test results, changed color, because I just matched his million-yuan machines with my eyes. She still wouldn't fold. Grandpa Cao must have briefed you. So I switched targets. Since you don't believe me, let's talk about you. I looked her up and down. Martial arts since childhood. Scar on the right leg. Old left arm injury that aches in the rain. Recent discomfort in the left breast. A lump. Hyperplasia. And from years of pushing your body too hard with no care, you've got cramps that flared up about 2 hours ago. You, shut up right now. Tomboy or not, having your private business read aloud in a room full of people will do that. And she was rattled, because she'd never told a soul. And here was a stranger with, she must have wondered, an X-ray machine behind his eyes. She wasn't wrong, but I'll never confirm it. Then I stopped talking and started needling. 12+ silver needles into the old lion's chest, tips trembling like each one had a tiny motor, my energy doing the quiet work underneath. Tao recognized it from the old books and nearly wept. The real 9 needles of resurrection. The divine technique said to make souls return and mourners weep. 20 minutes later, I pulled the needles, patted the patriarch's core, and he coughed up a mouthful of black gunk, went from corpse gray to rosy, and sat straight up in bed. Gao stumbled back like he'd seen a zombie. Then he babbled about a final surge before death, so the old man got up, walked the floor, and told him the king of hell wasn't collecting for another 10 years. They ran the scans again just to be sure. Lungs clean, effusion gone, no fibrosis. Gao stood there holding 2 reports that read like 2 different men, whispering impossible on a loop. Then I turned to him, Dr. Gao, about that bet. His face went purple, a million hurt. But the He family was watching, and He Tianqi, the businessman's son and the notary, asked flatly whether he planned to welch. Gao felt exactly how much the He name weighs in this province and wrote the check. Because welching in front of these people ends careers, not just wallets. He handed it over, promised a public apology to traditional medicine in the national press tomorrow, and slunk out with his machines. The second he was gone, Master Chow, Grandmaster, living legend, the most respected traditional name in the city, tried to kneel and become my student. I caught him before he hit the floor. Absolutely not. A revered elder as my disciple? He got offended I'd refuse. We compromised. I took him on as a disciple on my late master's behalf, an outer disciple of the ancient medical sect. They set up an incense table, put Yi Xiaoyao's memorial tablet out, and the old grandmaster kowtowed and started calling me senior brother, which felt deeply strange, coming from a man with a beard older than my whole life. And then it got worse for one person in particular. The patriarch announced that since Chao was now my junior, and he Chongqing was Chao's equal, that made me family elder. He waved his businessman's son over to greet Uncle Yi, a man with connections in every world, calling a college kid uncle. I let him off. Just names, equals, relax. He nearly cried with relief. He did not let his granddaughter off. Shuang Shuang, come greet your Uncle Yi. She stamped her foot. He's not even as old as me. But this family runs on old-school etiquette, and Grandpa's face was set. She glared pure murder, grounded out at a volume only dogs could hear. Greetings, Uncle. I cupped my ear. Getting old, hearing's going. Didn't catch that. Through her teeth, loud enough to crack a window. Uncle, now? Heard it, heard it. Best afternoon in weeks. And since she'd called me uncle, I owed her a gift. So I wrote out a prescription for that lump before it turned nasty and handed it over. Grandpa made her thank me too. She thanked me while silently swearing that the day I ever landed in her hands, she'd make me pay. The second we left the house, she ripped the prescription to shreds and threw it in the trash. I just smiled. That lump was not looking good, and she'd just thrown away the only thing that fixes it. Suit yourself, Deputy Captain. Out in the courtyard, she strode toward her Lamborghini, then pointedly detoured to the family's grocery-run Jetta. Keys inside, unlocked. The pettiest possible flex. I'm being generous giving you a Jetta. Get in. I saw the whole tiny scheme and opens the passenger door anyway. Free ride's a free ride. She dropped me at a kitchenware mall on the way to my school. I had a pill furnace to improvise and things to buy. She wouldn't come in, wouldn't say a word more, just told me to hurry or she'd leave. Fine by me. I walked into the store, and behind me, a young blonde thug pulled out his phone and dialed a number, which, in this city, is never good news for the guy who made the call. The blonde thug, it turned out, worked for Xiang Yuntian. Sewer boy hadn't taken the loss well. He'd paid a local gang 200 grand to break my legs, and his scout had just called it in. The kid's here, and he's with some woman in a beat-up Jetta, not the Chin heiress. Nobody important. That last part is going to age like milk. We'd barely pulled out of the mall lot when a pack of SUVs boxed the Jetta in, and a dozen guys with pipes and cleavers spilled out. A bald bruiser led them, took the windshield out in one swing, and told us to get out. In seconds, they turned a near-new car into modern art. Now, I clocked immediately these were Xiang's goons, and here's my confession. I did nothing. On purpose. These idiots had just declared war on the He family without knowing it, and I wasn't about to interrupt free entertainment. Shuang Shuang kicked the door open. Squat down, hands on your heads, I'm police. Baldy, new in town, no idea who she was, laughed and let his eyes crawl all over her. You? A cop? Sure, and I'm the bureau chief. Then the blonde one suggested they take her home for the night. Baldy said break the kid's legs and grab the girl, and the blonde reached for her. Deputy Captain, martial arts since childhood, freshly told she's a toy for the evening. That reach cost the blonde his lunch. 1 10-centimeter heel to the gut, and he folded like a lawn chair. She wrecked the small fry. Bare hands. Then, pipes and knives. Didn't matter. They went down screaming. 50 meters off, Xiang sat in an SUV next to the gang's actual boss. A man with a cobra tattoo across his chest, and a reputation for torturing people to death. They call him Cobra. Xiang got nervous his goons couldn't beat one woman. Cobra just puffed his cigar. Relax. The real one's Ironhead. Shaolin since childhood. Skull like an anvil. Blades don't bite him. Crippled a rich kid up north. Needed somewhere to lie low. And then he squinted at the woman's back. She looked familiar. Xiang waved it off. She drives a junk Jetta. What background could she have? And Cobra relaxed. Fair point. No heiress drives a Jetta. Except that Jetta belonged to the He family. And the heiress was driving it because of me. Shuang Shuang, out of small fry, threw a punch at Baldy's face. He just dipped his head and let his skull eat it. Crack. He didn't move. She staggered back with a fistful of shattered knuckles. Stubborn as a mule, she kicked him. Same target, the head, and snapped her heel clean off on his iron skull. Nearly went down. I watched this whole sequence shaking my head. Big skill in that head. And she kept hitting the head. Aim lower, deputy. The man has a groin like everyone else. She didn't get the chance. Baldy grinned and reached for her chest. That's where my afternoon of watching ended. My hand appeared around his wrist like an iron clamp. He couldn't budge it. Kid, you dare touch me? And, all his confidence living in that skull, he lowered his head and rammed my chest. A head that snaps bull-thick trees, sure I'd fold. Shuang Shuang screamed a warning. Too late. I'd already thrown the punch. Fist met skull. This time, I didn't move an inch. Baldy flew 7 meters and hit the ground, an egg-sized lump swelling on the anvil that used to split stone. And since these people had come for my legs, I stopped being polite. I was on him, raining fists, all on that famous head, until his skull bloomed with blisters, and he looked exactly like a bronze Buddha. Iron Head Kung Fu retired on the spot. I'm done! Please, brother, I'm done! In the SUV, Cobra and Shang watched their best man become a statue of enlightenment. Shang panicked and told Cobra to call more men. Cobra told him Ironhead was the more men. Then Shang had a worse idea. Call the cops. His cousin's on the criminal team. Watch the poor kid get hauled off. Cobra hesitated because none of his guys were clean and Baldy had a body on him. But Shang was already dialing. I decided Baldy had learned enough anatomy for one day. Shuang Shuang, wanting to feel better, took off her one surviving heel and beat him with it until he squealed like Slaughter Day. And I had to tell her to stop before she actually finished him. Then the sirens came. 6 cruisers, a squad leader named Wang Chang leading. And the second he saw who'd been attacked, his face dropped through the earth. Captain, hey, what happened here? And Baldy, just standing up, heard Captain, got dizzy, and fell back over. Because the junk Jetta girl really was police, and a captain, and the Hey heiress on top of it. They attacked me with weapons and wrecked my car, she said. Take them all in, find out who sent them. Every thug got cuffed. In the SUV, Xiang watched the cops arrest his own men instead of me, and short-circuited. Cobra grabbed him by the throat, because the nobody in a Jetta was the He family's only daughter, and in this city, the He name crushes men with a finger. Cobra had just, in his words, lit himself on fire. He wanted his people freed, and 10 million yuan in compensation, and when Xiang whined about the price, Cobra slapped him and made it a floor, not a ceiling. You need to be breathing to enjoy money after all. A lesson these two keep relearning. Wang Qiang asked who I was. Oh, I'm her great-uncle. Shuang Shuang shot me a look that could curdle steel and told me to walk home. Gladly. If she ever learned the thugs came for me, no telling what she'd do. I grabbed my pots and pans and left. While I walked, the He family was busy. The patriarch hadn't forgotten my fee. He decided plain money wasn't enough to move a miracle doctor. A gift, he told his son, is an art. Charcoal in the snow. Give a man exactly what he needs, precisely when he needs it. So, investigate the young doctor, find what he lacks most, and hand it to him. In their world, befriending a man who can drag you back from death is worth more than any building. An extra life in your pocket. I didn't know any of that yet. I checked into a quiet 5-star hotel to make my first real pill in peace. Dorms are no place for alchemy. And my phone rang. Unknown number, ending in 3/8. This is Zhu Lin Lin, my girlfriend. Off the grid for days. I lit up, ready to share every insane thing that had happened. We're breaking up. Today, we have nothing to do with each other now. Cold water, straight over the head. Lin Lin, there has to be a reason. You want a reason? See this number? Brand new iPhone, a 3/8 phone number, all a gift from young Master Ma. You know what that costs? In a whole year together, you gave me nothing. A broke loser like you couldn't buy me a phone if you lived twice. 3 months, she said. She'd been with him 3 months. Chanel, Prada, LV, 100 grand spent on her. Who doesn't like money? You poor wretch, don't ever call again. And she hung up. I stood there a while. Then I laughed at myself. I'd honestly believed I had one pure thing untouched by all this. And here it was, priced out and traded up. But you know the funniest part? I'm a walking immortal fortune. Money is the one problem I no longer have. I pulled out my 2 million yuan checks. One for Mom, one I'd meant for Lin Lin. Guess I only need the one. Better to see a gold digger's true face early than to marry it blind. So I felt lighter actually. And I got to work. Kitchen pots are a sad substitute for a proper furnace, but a foundation establishment pill is entry level. 2 hours later, 3 lumpy black pills sat in my palm. Ugly. But they'd work. I swallowed one, ran the energy, and my core boiled like a kettle. Right when I thought I'd burst, the pressure broke, and a bean-sized drop of liquid energy formed inside me. That's the mark of foundation establishment. Energy going from gas to liquid. I'd broken through. 10 times stronger than an hour before, and my divine sense stretched from 2 meters to 5. I could now see clean through the wall into the next room. Hold that upgrade too. It's about to matter at dinner. Because I cashed a check, showered, and went to the restaurant Choo Choo had picked. Zui Jiangnan, the Dong family's crown jewel, packed to the walls, silver tableware, cheongsam waitresses, the works. VIP room 1. And while I waited for her, Dong Tianda called. The restaurant transfer was finally done, and he was on his way to hand me the deed to this restaurant, the one I was sitting in, about to be mine. I knocked over my water glass, and because I grew up poor and can't stand making people clean up after me, I grabbed a napkin and started wiping the table myself. That's the exact moment the door opened and 2 people walked in. Not Choo-Choo. A slick guy around 30 in a sharp suit and a gaudy gold watch, and on his arm, in a pink dress with an LV bag and a jade bracelet, my ex-girlfriend, Zhu Lin. Reunited approximately 90 minutes after the breakup. "It's you," I said. "What brings you here?" "To eat, obviously. What are you doing here?" She was stunned by the luxury. She'd just been mourning that dating me meant never seeing a place like this, and here we both were. Then her date jumped in. "Isn't it obvious? He's a waiter. Lin, you know him?" "Honey, that's the ex-boyfriend I told you about. The poor one." I dumped him. Then she introduced her prize, Ma Wenbo, young master of the Ma family. I tried to keep it clean. "Zhu Lin, I never fought the breakup. Let's part like adults." "Sweet talk," she scoffed. "That's how a broke nobody like you tricked me in the first place." I actually raised my voice at that. "When did I sweet talk you? You chased me." That's when Ma Wenbo decided to be the villain of the evening. "Who do you think you are, talking to my woman like that? You're a waiter. My shoes are dirty. Wipe them." And he stuck out a foot, spat on his own shoe, and bragged it was handmade Italian, 20 grand a pair. "Careful, you can't afford to replace it." My face went cold. "Get out." Zhu Lin, straight-faced. "What's wrong with shining a VIP's shoes? Your staff." Ma Wenbo, delighted with himself, added that I was clearly new, no uniform yet, but if I served well he was close with Boss Dong and could make me a supervisor with a word. The irony was going to give me whiplash. I waved them off. "Just leave. I don't want to argue." Big mistake. He read mercy as weakness. Changed my mind. Lick them clean. Or I call the manager and you're fired before you're even hired. Tu Lin piped up that a waiter's salary here could cover my next semester, so hop to it. So I grabbed Ma Wenbo by the collar, threw him out the door, pointed at Zhu Lin and said, "I don't hit women. Out." He lost it, screaming for the manager. "The waiters are assaulting customers!" She screamed too, and the manager, Zhang Daqing, came running with a bootlicker's smile, recognized Ma Wenbo as a longtime wealthy regular, and instantly picked a side. Mine was not it. He looked at my 100 yuan outfit, decided no one dressed like that eats in VIP 1, and ordered me thrown out. I stayed calm. Now that the place was about to be mine, I wanted to see exactly what kind of manager I'd inherited. I told him twice, "Check the booking records." He refused. Ma Wenbo said he'd booked the room. Zhu Lin recited my entire wardrobe by price. 25 yuan shoes, 30 yuan pants, 10 yuan shirt, never more than 100 in your pocket. As proof a wretch like me could never dine here. Zhang Daqing called security. 4 big men rushed in to drag me out, and a roar came from the door. "Let's see who dares move." "Stop right there." Dong Tianda, owner, walking straight to me. Zhang Daqing rushed to grovel. "Boss, some troublemaker, I've handled it," and got slapped across the face mid-sentence. "You idiot. How dare you disrespect Mr. Yi?" Dong turned to me with a bow and an apology for being late to traffic, then handed me a briefcase. Inside, the transfer documents. "Mr. Yi, it's all done. From today, Zui Jiangnan is yours. You're the owner." The room stopped breathing. Zhang Daqing had just tried to have his new boss dragged out by security. Zhu Lin, who dumped a poor man 90 minutes ago, watched him become the owner of a restaurant worth tens of millions. Ma Wenbo, who'd been mocking me for being too broke to eat here, felt his whole face catch fire, and then discovered, to make it perfect, that he'd booked the standard room 1, not the VIP room 1. He'd barged into a stranger's private room to play big shot, in the wrong room. Zhang Daqing slapped himself twice and begged. I let him finish, then fired him, calmly. "I gave you a chance. I told you to check the records. You sorted my customers by their clothes, believed every word he said and nothing I said. You're not built to work for me." He pleaded about his years, his salary, his career, all of it earned by a man who trusts gold watches over the truth. Out. Ma Wenbo, still brave because Dong had already left the room, sneered a parting shot at me. "So what if you've got money? I still stole your woman," and told Zhu Lin to come along. She did not come along. She ran to my side. "Xiao Fan, I was wrong. For old time's sake, let's get back together, okay?" Because she'd done fresh math. Ma was just playing with her. But I now owned a restaurant worth tens of millions, and getting back together made her a multi-millionaire. 90-minute round trip on the love train. I looked at her and felt nothing where the feelings used to be. Some mistakes don't come with a redo. We're done, exactly like you said. Ma Wenbo, humiliated twice over, bragged about stealing my woman, and then got dumped by her on the spot. spat threats, and fled. And Zhu Linlin still wouldn't quit. She kept crawling, kept promising, kept trying to use her body to buy back in, until a voice like a bell cut across the room. Of course he can find a girlfriend prettier than you. I'm his girlfriend. And I'm much prettier. Chin Choo Choo, bohemian maxi dress, a figure that embarrasses supermodels, a face with no bad angle. She strolled over, took my arm, and when Zhu Linlin sputtered that this was impossible, that I must have hired her, she kissed me on the cheek. First kiss of my life, by the way, and it hit like a live wire. Hired? Choo Choo smiled. Let me introduce myself. Vice President of Chin's Group. Billions in assets. Thousands of employees. Who exactly could afford to hire me? Zhu Linlin's whole world folded. Beaten on helps. Beaten on status. Beaten on the man she'd thrown away that same afternoon. Choo Choo leaned into me, sweet as poison, and delivered the finisher. Honestly, I should thank you. If you weren't such a brainless gold digger, I'd never have landed a boyfriend as good as Bufan. Zhu Linlin broke, shrieking that every woman loves money. What's wrong with wanting a better life? I just shook my head. She could make shamelessness sound like a human right. I told her it was no longer my business and to leave. She glared venom at me, turned for the door, and got about 3 steps before a new voice froze the whole room. Wait a moment. This time, it was Choo Choo doing the talking. She looked at Zhu Linlin and, sweet as anything, offered one piece of advice. Be a gold digger if you want, but at least be a smart one. Then she pointed at the jade bracelet. That's granite boiled in chemicals, worthless, and the gray energy soaked into it could give you cancer if you wear it long enough. Zhu Linlin nearly fainted. 20,000 yuan bracelet, certificate and all, gift from Ma Wenbo, the bracelet she'd spent her first night with him to earn. Choo Choo tapped it with a spoon. Dull thud. Not the clear ring of real jade. And Zhu Linlin tried it herself. Thud. She smashed it on the floor and it cracked open to plain gray stone. Then Choo Choo pointed at the LV bag. Also fake. 40 yuan on Taobao. Zhu Linlin swore it was a limited edition, 40 grand, brought from abroad. Choo Choo ran the whole appraisal. The wrong-sized R in the logo, the sloppy metal, the fake leather. Then poured my leftover water on it and wiped it with 2 fingers. They came away stained purple-red, dyed cloth. Zhu Linlin howled Ma Wenbo's name and ran out of the room like her hair was on fire. She'd slept with a man for a granite bracelet and dumped me for a Taobao bag. And now, even those 2 lies were gone. I actually felt a little bad. Why do that to her? Choo Choo just smiled. She dumped you for money. I want her to feel exactly how dumb that was. Then she turned those eyes on me. So, how are you going to thank me? That was my first kiss. I offered mine in exchange. She went red and changed the subject fast, asking how I'd earned a whole restaurant. So I told her about the poisoned kids. She looked skeptical when I said no one alive has better medical skills than me. Fair. It does sound like a lie until you've watched it. Dinner didn't stay peaceful. My new temp manager, Liu Kai, came running. A sanitation inspection team had shown up demanding the restaurant close for hygiene violations, clearing out my paying customers. One guess who sent them. Ma Wenbo was the only person alive with both the grudge and the timing. Downstairs, a middle-aged man in an inspector uniform was chain-smoking next to Ma Wenbo while his crew shooed diners out. Their leader hadn't even seen the kitchen. Why should I? I'm the head of the inspection department. I decide who passes. And Ma Wenbo strutted up, gloating, offering to make the whole nightmare disappear for 1 million yuan. Now here's the thing. I'd brought a guest to that dinner, Zhou Yongliang, the actual director of the health bureau, the man these inspectors supposedly worked for. So I asked the ringleader, real casual, if he recognized the older gentleman behind me. He didn't. Neither did Ma Wenbo, who sneered that no 500 yuan outfit belonged to a bureau chief. That was the tell. A department head who doesn't know his own director isn't a department head. So I kicked the ringleader to the floor, and when his goons rushed me, I put them down next to him. Then I grabbed his uniform and tore it open, ferocious wolf's head tattooed across his chest. I stripped the rest of them down to their shorts, and there it was. Wolves, tigers, and one round little guy with a whole bear on his sternum. In China, uniformed officials aren't allowed tattoos. These weren't inspectors. They were street thugs in costume, and one look through their shirts had told me so. Ma Wenbo went white. He'd figured a poor kid who hadn't graduated would fold to a few fake badges. He hadn't figured the kid dined with a real director and could see straight through fabric. I squatted down next to him. Master Ma, you really do love a forgery. Granite bracelets, Taobao bags, and now rented thugs and stolen uniforms. Zhou wanted to call the police immediately. Ma Wenbo begged to settle privately. How much did I want? The comedy of it. The man who'd shown up to extort 1 million was now bidding to pay me 1. So I made him bid against himself. First he offered 100 grand. I called it stingy. He just demanded 10 times that from me. He climbed to 1 million. Not enough, I said. My restaurant's losses double it. Then I turned to Choo-Choo and asked, out loud, how many years impersonating officials and extorting $1 million gets you under Chinese law? 10, easy. So, I gave Ma Wenbo the menu, 2 million, or a decade in prison. He wrote a check. I don't trust a forger's check, so I made him wire it. 2 million yuan, day one of owning the place. Then I told him to get out and stay out. Later, Choo-Choo asked how I'd known the fakes had tattoos under their clothes. X-ray vision, I can see through fabric. She froze, because we'd been alone together twice. And slapped both hands over her chest. That's not actually true, is it? Of course not. How could anyone have X-ray vision? She relaxed. She always relaxes. I feel a little bad about that one. Not bad enough to stop. Next morning, I went to see the one person all of this was really for. My mom. Here's what you should know about Oh Young Lan. I'm adopted. She raised me and her own daughter alone after her in-laws threw her out of the family 3 years back. Came to this city with nothing, rented a 10-square-meter shack in a slum, and sold steamed buns before dawn every day to put 2 kids through school. My little sister, Oh Young Jing, a year younger than me, is off at university working a summer job instead of resting. Mom treated the adopted son better than her own blood. So yeah, anyone who touches her is going to have a very bad day. Which is exactly what was happening when I arrived. 4 thugs in loud shirts, led by a guy with a mohawk, were shaking Mom down for protection money. Collected, they announced, for a local boss named Ma Ju. She begged for a few days. She'd just been in the hospital. The blonde one kicked over a steamer, sending white buns rolling into the mud, and grabbed for the canvas bag at her waist, the bag with the 20 grand I'd given her inside. She threw both arms around it. He tore it in half, and the cash spilled into the dirt. His hand reached for it. My foot got there first. I stomped his hand flat, and he screamed. When the Mohawk sent 2 knife men at me, they got their own blades stuck in their forearms. Then I walked over and slapped the Mohawk into a pig's head. Mom pulled at my arm, terrified. Son, stop! We can't afford these people! But I'd already decided the bill for this was coming due today. I pointed at the buns in the mud. Who did that? 3 of them ratted out the blonde in unison. Which leg did you kick with? He pointed at his right, stammering. I snapped it in 2. Then I gave the survivors a choice. Eat the buns, all of them, or I break all your legs. They ate. Off the ground, out of the ditch-splashed edge, 4 or 5 each until they couldn't. Then the whole 24 more while the neighbors, people these thugs had bullied for years, watched and quietly cheered. Those 4 are never eating a steamed bun again as long as they live. And before they crawled off, I charged them. 100 yuan a bun. My mother's buns are worth it. Pay up. They emptied their pockets, 4 or 5 grand, and I let them run. With a promise, come collect protection money here again, and I'll do this every single time. Then I told Mom to pack. We were leaving the slum for good. I own a restaurant now. She never has to work another dawn shift. I gave the rented shack and the thugs' cash to Uncle Zhang next door, the one neighbor who tried to stand up for her, and told him to split the money among everyone the gang had squeezed. Mom, being Mom, still wanted to pack her 20 yuan clothes. Buy new ones, I said. You're not married yet. You can't spend recklessly, she said, and went in to bag every last thing anyway. Some habits money doesn't fix. I love her for it. While she packed, my phone rang. He Shuang, furious. Ye Bufan, where are you? She'd wrapped up the iron head case and realized she'd taken a beating meant for me. Her Jetta smashed on my account. And being who she is, she'd come to collect a grievance in person. She raced her Lamborghini to the slum, discovered the roads were too rough for a low-riding supercar, cursed, parked, and stormed in on foot with a face like thunder. Explain yourself. What happened yesterday? What do you mean? I saved your grandfather, became his equal. I'm your uncle now. That's not what The thugs. They came for you and let me take the hit. I never said a word. I didn't tell them to smash your car or ask you to fight for me. You did all that yourself. What's it got to do with me? She called me a scoundrel, which, fair, and announced she was hauling me to the station to sit for 24 hours out of pure spite. And that's when 3 SUVs came screaming into the slum. A dozen thugs with steel pipes, led by a young man with a scar running from eye to jaw. The vendors scattered. It's Maju's people. That's Scarface, he's vicious. The Mohawk crew had gone crying to their boss, and the boss had sent his enforcer. Shuang put it together. These people are all here for you? Yep, but it's fine. I've got police with me now. She was not about to be my human shield twice. Then a nasty little smile crossed her face and she leaned in to whisper. So close. We look like a couple murmuring sweet nothings. Fighting's illegal in China. Throw one punch and I arrest all of you. She'd found her win. Let the thugs and me brawl. Then cuff everyone. Teach the enforcers a lesson. And the annoying Inkle won too. 2 birds. She'd watched me pulp Ironhead. She wasn't worried about me losing. So I decided to play along and see who could out-scheme who. I pushed Mom safely inside, and when Scarface swaggered up with his pipe, demanding $1,000,000 and a kneeling apology, I put on my most terrified face. "Brother, I was wrong. I'll never do it again. I'll pay." Shuang blinked. She'd been all set to watch me wreck them, and here I was folding like wet paper. Scarface swelled up. Sure, his aura had broken me. "1,000,000, kneel, and we're square." "Kneeling's fine," I said, "but I don't have that kind of cash on me right now." His face darkened, so I hurried to reassure him. "I can raise it fast, brother. 1,000,000, not a yuan short, and if you're worried I'll run." I nodded at the fuming deputy captain of criminal investigation standing next to me. "I'll leave my girlfriend here as collateral. Redeem her once I've got the money." Scarface laughed at what a coward I was, cursed out his Mohawk crew for losing to a spineless kid, and then let his eyes crawl all over my collateral. Bad move, because the moment his thugs reached for the deputy captain of criminal investigation, she detonated. She screamed that she had nothing to do with me. The truth, technically, and when nobody listened, she took it out on them. Broke a nose, launched a guy across the lot, put the whole crew down, then kicked Scarface over and worked him with both heels while cursing my name. "I'll teach you to be brainless. Believed everything I fed you." She was yelling at me. He just happened to be under the heel. Scarface played his last card. "I'm Ma Ju's man, you can't afford this," and got cold steel on his wrists instead. Turns out the girl really was police, and a captain, which he'd have known if he'd worked anywhere but the East District. She called it in, 6 cruisers hauled the lot away, and I beamed at her. "Grandniece, you're amazing. Solved your uncle's problems so easily." She wanted to strangle me. She'd come to pick a fight and ended up doing my chores. Again. Then Mom came out and asked, eyes shining, if the fierce, beautiful girl was my girlfriend. Shuang went scarlet, stammered, "Auntie, no!" And Mom read the blush as bashful young love and basically adopted her on the spot. I hustled Mom out of there before I gained a daughter-in-law by ambush. I dropped Mom at the restaurant and, to avoid the female tyrant hunting me down, reported to the criminal team myself. The place was grim. 3 of her colleagues had collapsed at a crime scene and wouldn't wake, and every scan came back perfectly normal. So she grabbed me and floored it to the hospital. On the way, she told me the story. A new luxury complex out by Orchid Stream, gorgeous location. And then workers started snapping. One beat 2 co-workers to death with a pipe and jumped off the building. A week later, another. Last night, a third took a cleaver to the kitchen. 3 massacre suicides in a month. Investigators went to the scene, and 3 of them dropped where they stood. Grim. Also, catnip for a man with an immortal medical sect in his skull. At the TCM hospital, I ran into Ma Wenbo and Zhu Lin. Reunited, because he'd bought her an internship here through his uncle, chief physician Zhang Bai, and her ambitions outweighed her dignity. She gloated that Master Ma's uncle basically ran the place, so I was nothing here. Then I went upstairs and became something here, because Master Cao was already at the bedside, stumped. The 3 cops had yin energy flooding their bodies, and the lost half of traditional medicine that handles that sort of thing was beyond even him, so he was calling his senior brother. His phone rang the exact second mine did, at the door, and I walked in. Chief physician Zhang Bai sneered at the hairless kid crashing a special ward, right up until Cao bowed to me and called me senior brother in front of the whole room. Watching a room of doctors recalculate their entire worldview never gets old. One scan told me Cao was right. Gray death energy wrapped around all 3, so I ran the 6th needle of the 9 needles, the one that expels evil, turned my energy pure yang, and burned the yin out. 5 minutes. First cop sat up asking why he wasn't at the crime scene, then the second, then the third. 2 hospitals had filled for a day. I fixed all 3 before lunch. And I told Shuang the one rule: never go to that place at night. Foreshadowing. Hold that. Dean Xie Donglin promptly begged me to join the hospital. I don't do hospitals. Too much backstabbing, not enough medicine. So he made me honorary dean instead. 50 grand a month. I only touch the cases nobody else can crack. Zhang Bai, the current top doctor who can't clear 50 grand, turned a lovely shade of jealous. And then Xie asked me to judge the intern exam, the same exam Ma Wenbo had rigged for Zhu Lin. Downstairs, I ran into my roommate Han Shui, rich building materials family, my best friend, the guy who quietly covered my meals for years and never once let me feel poor about it. He wants to be a finance tycoon. His dad wants a doctor. So here he was, dragged to an exam he didn't care about. When he heard I was judging it, he laughed in my face. Fair. A week ago, I couldn't afford herbs. Then the exam. Zhu Lin strode up expecting a formality and got asked what a line about medical ethics meant. Blank. The difference between 2 look-alike herbs. Blank. Zhang Bai kept fishing for easier questions to save his nephew's girl. So I offered the easiest one in the trade. Recite the beginner's herbal rhyme, the one I'd nagged her to learn back when we dated, the one she skipped for eating and shopping. I can't. Chow tore into her. Zhang Bai tried, but she's pretty, let's train her. And Dean Xie fired Zhang Bai from the panel on the spot. Are we recruiting doctors or holding a beauty pageant? Ma Wenbo leapt up screaming that a mere student had no right to judge. So Xie listed my titles. Heir to the 9 Needles, Honorary Dean, Chow's senior brother. Then asked how Ma Wenbo, who wasn't even a candidate, had gotten in. He couldn't answer without sinking his uncle. Security carried him out. Zhu Linlin trailed after. They'd swaggered in to mock me and left with nothing, while I ran the panel. That night, Han Shui and I got dinner, and he confessed he'd fallen. Love at first sight. A finance department beauty named Shi Yuting. Except another guy was chasing her too. Her birthday party was the next day. He begged me to come be his wingman and help him look impressive. For the man who fed me through 3 years of being broke, I'd stand in any corner he needed. Deal. Then, drunk friend safely delivered home, I went where I'd told Shuang never to go. The haunted complex. Midnight. The cold hit me at the gate. Yen so thick the temperature dropped. Weird, because a place this scenic should be rich with clean spiritual energy, not death cold. I walked in, and a transparent thing lunged at me. So that's what dropped the cops. I turned my energy pure yang, and it vanished like a snowflake on a bonfire. Deeper in, more evil spirits swirled, but they were terrified of the yang on my skin, circling, never daring to land. At the dead center, I closed my eyes, sensed the whole layout, and found the answer. Somebody had built a profound yin gathering array here. Precision work. No street sorcerer did this. This was a master. But why sink a death array under a luxury complex? Did the developer cross the wrong person? I filed it. I wasn't equipped to break a formation this good tonight. I'd come back prepared. And then I saw a body on the ground. Evil things swarming it, drinking its warmth. I got closer, and my stomach dropped. Shuang. Stubborn, curious, allergic to being told no. She'd snuck back at night, felt nothing but a chill, because she's an ordinary person, and walked straight to the center while the spirits fed on her the whole way. I blasted them off her with a palm of pure yang and took her pulse. Her life force was nearly drained. Worse than the cops, minutes from having her true essence emptied, past the point any god could save. Silver needles would be too slow. And I want it on record that this is the second time this city has spent my first kiss for me. I lowered my head, kissed her, and fed my own essence into her to keep her alive, which would have been noble and clean if she'd stayed unconscious. Instead, half dreaming of drinking hot soup in a frozen wasteland, she threw her arms around my neck and kissed back like she was dying of thirst, which, technically, she was. And that is the exact moment her eyes opened. She screamed and punched me square in the chest. I just poured out my own life essence to save her. So the hit actually staggered me, biting the hand that revives you. Are you insane? I yelled. She recognized me, went nuclear. You dare take advantage of me?
I'll kill you!
And swung again. I caught her wrist before she could unman me. Again, and told her the truth. Her 3 colleagues collapsing was the whole reason I told her to stay away, and the evil things here had already drained her dry. She called it the worst excuse she'd ever heard, so I stopped arguing and pressed a spell to her forehead. Open the heavenly eye. Suddenly the fearless deputy captain could see them. Floating heads, trailing intestines, skeletons circling in the dark. She screamed and climbed me like a tree, legs around my waist, arms around my neck, face buried in my chest, eyes clamped shut. And there I was, discovering the female tyrant's one weakness. She's terrified of ghosts. Filed that away for life. I'd have laughed longer, but then the king showed up. A blood-red skull the size of a bulldozer, floating in a cloud of black energy, hollow eyes eating the light, commanding every evil thing in the place. It didn't attack itself. It directed, throwing wave after wave at me to bleed me dry, while the array kept refilling its tank. Smart. Too smart. Whatever this thing was, it had grown a brain. I backed toward the gate with Shuang glued to me, and when the skull finally lunged, mouth wide as a cave, I flicked out a bead of danfire. Pillflame, the alchemist's tool that doubles as the one thing every evil creature fears. It got sucked into that greedy mouth, and the skull screamed, shrank by half, and fled into the dark. Good thing I'd hit Foundation Establishment. At my old level, that thing would have had me for a snack. Out under the streetlights, Shuang finally peeled off me, red to the ears, remembering she'd spent 10 minutes as my koala. She thanked me, actually thanked me, first time. After I explained the whole thing, someone had planted a profound yin gathering array here, the yin was breeding the evil, the mad workers and the fainting cops were all the same poisoning, and if the array kept running, it'd eventually swallow the whole city. Give me 3 days to prep talismans and artifacts, and I'd tear it down. She just had to seal the place off. Then, being who I am, I told her she'd have ended up a shriveled mummy without me, and watched a woman who fistfights gangsters go pale at the thought of dying ugly. She offered to thank me by letting me pursue her. I turned it down. When a normal woman repays kindness with herself, it's gratitude. When a violent one does it, it's returning good with evil. She wound up to kill me. I pointed behind her and yelled, "It's back!" She leapt into koala mode, and in the scramble, our lips landed together. Neither of us pulled away. So, strictly speaking, that was the real first kiss, and it tasted just fine. She jumped down, cursing that I'd taken advantage again. "Sister, you keep leaping on to me. I can't be blamed for physics." Next morning, I went shopping for the array-breaking kit. Talismans need cinnabar and yellow paper, which took half the city to find. And for a real weapon, I needed a magic artifact. So I drifted into Jubao Garden, the biggest antique market around. My appraisal method is simple. My divine sense reads the spirit energy every genuine old thing carries. Better than carbon dating, impossible to fake. Half the street was junk. Then a furious middle-aged man stormed in waving a scroll that glowed with real spirit energy. He'd bought a Ji Xiaolan calligraphy for 5,000, and the shop owner, a skinny weasel of a man everyone calls White Mouse, had swapped it at home for a crude fake, then hid behind, "Antiques are buyer beware, no returns." The man was about to eat the loss and take a pity refund of 500. Here's the thing my eyes had already told me. That fake scroll was radiating serious spirit energy. So I bought it off him for the full 5,000 he'd paid, made him whole, and let White Mouse smirk that I'd overpaid for garbage. White Mouse couldn't leave it alone, kept needling me, then bet me 200 grand the scroll was worthless, and roped in the market's top appraiser, Yang Ziqian, president of the Antique Association, to notarize. Perfect. I popped the wooden roller off the scroll, tapped it, and the solid wood split to reveal a hollow chamber. And inside, the real painting. An authentic Yan Zhenqing, hidden inside the frame of the decoy. Yang's jaw hit the floor. A Yan original had just sold in Hong Kong for 3 million. This one was bigger and better. He bought it from me on the spot for 6 million, and I collected White Mouse's 200 grand on top. The weasel had sold me a treasure for 5,000 and paid me to take it. Chef's kiss. White Mouse did not take it well. He sent 3 of his crew, led by a 200-kilo bruiser called Blackie, to stage a fake accident with a broken terracotta figurine and extort 6 million back. Except when Blackie body-checked me from behind, he bounced off like he'd hit a wall, and the crew threw their box down before I'd even touched it. Worst staged accident I've ever seen. They pivoted to threats and knives anyway, so I kicked one across the street, stabbed Blackie through the palm with his own blade, and dropped the third. Then I asked what they'd paid for the smashed figurine. 30 yuan. Great, here's 100, keep the change. Because when I'd scanned that box, I'd seen what was on the figurine's little clay hand. A plain black ring, dull, unmarked, wouldn't fetch 2 yuan at a stall, and a genuine storage ring. A space treasure I'd only ever read about in the sex records, thought was a legend. Now it was mine, and I'd never have to lug pots and herbs around again. 6 million from a scroll, and the real prize was the free ring. I was sliding it onto my finger when a voice stopped me. "Young layman, might I see that ring?" An old man in blue robes with a sword on his back, elegant on the surface, and radiating a sinister energy underneath. Not a righteous cultivator, but a real one. Strong energy, cultivation just short of foundation establishment. The first actual martial artist I'd met since inheriting the legacy. So there were others like me out here. And this one was staring at my ring with pure greed. I don't show my things to strangers. He offered 100,000. I said no. 1 million. No. 10 million. I walked off without turning around. Not for 10 million, not for 100. Blackie nearly fainted. He'd sold me the figurine for 100 yuan, and now a stranger was throwing 100 million at what came off it. But the sinister old Taoist wasn't the type to just let a treasure walk away. He tailed me to a quiet corner and dropped the polite act. "Boy, hand over the treasure and I might spare your life." Cute. "Leave now and I might spare yours." He threw a palm strike, greed overriding sense. Pre-foundation, I'd have respected him. Now we weren't in the same weight class. I met his palm with mine and sent him flying 10 meters to cough blood on the pavement. He staggered up, gaping. "You're a Xuan rank martial artist?" A term meaning nothing to me yet. Then he flipped out a fistful of talismans, and they wove into a roaring fire dragon and lunged. His mistake was assuming a martial artist can't do magic. I have an immortal medical sect in my head. My mental power dwarfs a martial artist's. I waved a hand, turned his own fire dragon around, and sent it home. It swallowed him. Eyebrows, beard, the lot. "You're a master of arcane arts too?" he shrieked, beating out the flames, and fled. A young Xuan rank fighter who's also a spellcaster is not a man you rob. Useful though. He'd handed me a vocabulary, so there were ranks out here, and there were others like me. Back at the hotel, I loaded the empty storage ring, hundreds of square meters of timeless space, and cinnabar, yellow paper, everything vanished inside. Then I sat and drew. 20 exorcism talismans, 20 fire, 20 thunder, all filed in the ring. Never hurts to keep a pocket full of lightning. Then Dean Ma of Jiangnan Hospital called with a case even he couldn't crack. His cousin's family, the Tang clan. Not old money like the He family. A martial arts family, every core member a fighter, and the 80-year-old patriarch had collapsed 3 days ago. And who did I find at the bedside running scans? Gao Haisheng, the Western expert I'd bankrupted at the He House, still in town trying to win back his million, now confidently diagnosing the old man with late-stage cancer. Surgery immediately. I looked at the same old man and saw the truth. He doesn't have cancer. He's got internal injuries from qi deviation. Gao scoffed about fantasy novels, until I asked him the one question that ended it. You said the cancer appeared 3 days ago. Name me one cancer that goes from nothing to every organ terminal in 3 days. Silence. Those tumor shadows weren't tumors. They were the old man's own energy, scattered through his organs after a failed breakthrough, invisible to machines that only know how to guess. The patriarch's son lit up. That was exactly it. His father had spent a lifetime stuck at the peak of yellow rank, forced a breakthrough out of frustration, and blew out his meridians. Western medicine has no move for that. I did. I fed him one of my foundation establishment pills, needled him awake, pressed my own energy into his core, repaired the damage, and then rode the pill's power to shove him straight through the wall he'd never crossed. He broke through to Xuan rank in minutes, the leap that had eluded him for a decade, and every scrap of the wild energy that had been killing him got burned clean. The old man wept, jumped out of bed and knelt. His son knelt behind him, and Gao Haisheng, watching a dying man turn into a tiger, gave up for good. Bowed deep, formally apologized to traditional medicine for being a frog in a well, and left. The Tangs handed me a 10 million check I pocketed without looking, and I got a free lesson in return. The martial world runs heaven, earth, black, yellow. The spell world runs spellcaster, immortal master, master of arcane arts, grandmaster. In this whole city, exactly one man had reached profound rank. Nobody here could touch me. Good to know. Later, the Tangs would even send me a car. The old man scolding his son that 10 million means nothing to a man who never glances at the check. And you don't befriend a master with cash, you befriend him with sincerity. Then Han Shui called. Party time. His big night. I found him outside the East District's newest KTV. Night never ends. Dressed like a broke student on purpose. Left hand bandaged and bloody. Rich kid playing poor. Because he wanted Shi Yuting to like him, not his money. He'd handmade her a silver ring, engraved her name, cut his hand polishing it, bled on it. Sentimental idiot. I love him. His rival was one Tao Wei, liquor distributor's son, the type who buys women and tosses them. Inside the platinum room, Tao Wei had brought 2 rich friends, Niu Haotian and Yang Su, purely to out-wallet my best friend. They sized up our cheap clothes and started the usual sermon. Money buys everything. Poor men only believe in love because it's free. Women would rather cry in a BMW than laugh on a bike. Then they said the quiet part loud. They'd use Shi Yuting and throw her away, and Han Shui could have the leftovers. So I held up my phone. Second brother. I got all of that recorded. Might be fun to play it for the birthday girl later. 3 smug faces went white in unison. Because you can brag like a monster in private, but that speech played aloud ends any courtship forever. They begged me to delete it, and I made all 3 apologize to Han Shui first. Then I told them the truth. Money's great, can't buy brains though. My phone was never even on. When was I recording? Watching them realize they'd groveled to a black screen was worth the ticket price. Then they pivoted to bragging about whose place this was. Master Ma Ju, the top dragon boss of the city. Hundreds of men, ruins businesses in 3 days, once beat 100 people barehanded. And, Yang Shu added, gossiping, some reckless kid recently beat up Ma Ju's crew and got Scarface jailed. And he'd be dead soon if he weren't somehow tangled up with the He heiress. I nearly laughed into my drink. That reckless kid was sitting in Ma Ju's own KTV, sipping Ma Ju's own liquor. Han Shui, dead serious, warned me to never cross this Ma Ju. Sure, brother, he's just a gangster. Then the door opened and the birthday girl walked in. Shi Yuting, white dress, fairy tale princess energy, trailed by her overdressed best friend, Huang Xiaoli, who'd clearly come hunting a rich man. Gift time. Tao Wei made Han Shui present first, hoping to humiliate him. Han Shui opened the little box, the handmade silver ring. Huang Xiaoli sneered, 40 yuan at most. Tao Wei laughed at the naivety. I watched Shi Yuting's face, because that's the whole test. If she was another Zhu Linlin, I'd tell my brother to walk. She took the ring, slid it on, and smiled at him, clear-eyed and warm. Thank you for the present you made me. Han Shui nearly floated out of his shoes. Good girl. Real one. Tao Wei, visibly gutted the poor gift had landed, opened his own box. A solid gold globe studded with 1-carat diamonds. Huang Xiaoli pounced on it, eyes shining. And out in the parking lot, Ma Wenbo and Zhu Linlin sat with a gang boss called Black Wolf, 300 grand on the table to break my legs, waiting for me to step off Ma Ju's turf so they could do it clean. 21-carat diamonds, 1 per year of her life, mounted on solid gold. Tao Wei had money and knew how to spend it, and I could see Shi Yuting wavering. My brother was about to lose. So I helped. I flicked a thread of wind energy into Tao Wei's gut, and just as he hit, "Will you be my girlfriend?" the room went dead silent, and Tao Wei let out a fart you could file a noise complaint about. Then another. Then 10 more, louder and riper, until a 100-square-meter platinum room needed evacuating. He tried to sing his prepared love song and hiccuped through it. He sat down to play piano to recover and went numb down his left side, mangling it. Every time the man reached for a win, his own body betrayed him. Nobody knew why. I knew exactly why. Then Tao Wei sneered that poor people can't play piano anyway and dared us to try. Bad dare. See, before the sect ever moved into my head, I was a piano kid, level 10 by the college exam. Could have gone to the conservatory if we hadn't been too broke to afford it. Add the sect's music theory on top, and I'm not level 10 anymore. I sat down and played Beethoven's second. Then, when the birthday girl begged for more, Flight of the Bumblebee, the 3rd hardest piece on earth, the one real masters won't perform in public because one slip ends you. I didn't slow it down. I sped it up until my hands blurred into a swarm and the whole room forgot to breathe. Then I opened the piano lid, wiped a cigarette against the steel strings I'd just friction heated to burning, lit it clean, took one elegant drag, and blew a smoke ring. Because a performance deserves an ending. Tao Wei, a level 10 pianist himself, stood there like an unplugged appliance. Shi Yuting filmed the whole thing and posted it, face unseen, and within the hour, the internet crowned an anonymous piano prince. Across town, Chin Chu Chu watched it in a restaurant and froze, because that back looked familiar. He Shuang watched it in bed and shook her head. No way one man is a doctor, a sorcerer, a fighter, and that. God isn't that unfair. Turns out God is exactly that unfair, ladies. The party might have ended sweet. Then, Huang Xiaoli, Shi Yuting's status-hunting friend, got her backside slapped by a drunk balding man who mistook her outfit for a price tag. She hit him, Tao Wei's crew stomped him, and the bald man limped off, promising trouble. And here's the thing my sharp eyes caught. He walked straight into the KTV's most exclusive Supreme room. Anyone in that room, local or not, has a very bad kind of power. I told Han Shui to sit tight. Good show incoming, because the bald man was Ma Ju's out-of-town cousin. Ma Ju, top dragon boss of the city, the one whose men I'd been thrashing all week, sitting on an Italian sofa ringed by black-suited muscle and 4 terrified women like an emperor. His cousin cried about being humiliated on family turf, and Ma Jiu sent his crew to drag the whole platinum room in. Watching Tao Wei, Niu Hao Tian, and Yang Shu was an education in spine. 10 minutes ago, they were the richest men alive. Now they knelt in a row, throwing their father's names at Ma Jiu like coins into a well. My dad's Tao Ji Jun, that guy who delivers my liquor. Slap. Kneel. And when the cousin pointed at Shi Yuting and asked for her too, Ma Jiu waved a hand. Women are nothing, take her, and told his men to grab her. The 3 young masters who'd bragged all night that nothing could touch them in this city. Tao Wei actually said out loud, "We're just casual friends with that woman. Do whatever you want." Watching Shi Yuting's face curdle as she learned exactly who she'd almost dated was its own small justice. Because one person stepped in front of her, Han Shui, my best friend. An ordinary rich kid who never learned to throw a punch, shaking head to toe, spreading his arms. As long as I'm here, no one touches Rain Ting. Ma Jiu gave him 2 options, leave or die. And Han Shui chose the woman he loved. Ma Jiu ordered his limbs broken and his body fed to the fish, and 2 giants charged. Han Shui shut his eyes and swung blind. His fists hit nothing, because I'd already sent both men flying 7 meters. With me here, I told him, no one touches my brothers. He gaped at his own hands. Sure, he developed superpowers. No, brother, that was me. Ma Jiu sized me up and sent in his ace. Ah Bao, a Southeast Asian black boxing champion he'd bought, the man who'd built half of Ma Jiu's reputation, every strike drawing blood. Han Shui begged me to run. Relax, he's a pretty useless piece of junk. Ah Bao hadn't even crossed the yellow rank threshold. His lightning throat grab crawled toward me slow as a snail, and I kicked him through the room into the wall, where he crumpled next to the kneeling trio and couldn't get up. Han Shui nearly levitated. 3 years of thinking I was a gentle broke kid, and here I was folding underground champions. Ma Jiu went very still, then made me an offer his enemies rarely survive to hear. come work for me. And I'll forget all of this. The famously vindictive dragon boss, offering a truce. Everyone in the room recalculated my worth on the spot. I just smiled. You think you're worthy of having me as a subordinate? Ma Zhou asked who I was. Then he heard the name and his face changed. I was the kid who'd wrecked his crew in the slum. Old scores and new. Let's settle them all tonight. He put a 1,000,000 yuan bounty on my head and threw his 20-plus trained bodyguards at me. They lasted about 40 seconds, floor to floor. Then he stripped off his shirt, made a proper stance. The man hadn't fought in years, and threw the Tai Chi punch that had broken 100 men. I met it with mine. He flew 10 meters and folded into the wall next to Bao. One punch. The bald cousin dropped Huang Xiaoli and cowered, and I walked to the 3 kneeling young masters. Get up, take your revenge. I've cleared the room for you. They didn't move. Tao Wei actually screamed that I was doomed for hitting Ma Zhou. Kneeling too long, I told them, you forget how to stand. So Ma Zhou, bleeding, played his last card. I've got backers you can't afford. Kneel now, or you and your friends all die. Fine. I pulled up a chair, sat, and told him to call everyone he had. He phoned his boss. Boss, some kid wrecked my place. You can't handle one kid? I'm coming. Then I kicked Ma Zhou down and made him kneel, right next to the young masters he'd just been lording over. Dozens of black-clad fighters poured in, every one a match for Bao. Tao Wei's crew secretly prayed the boss would break me. Then the boss strode in. Trench coat, cigar, slicked hair, pure kingpin, and pointed at me. Kneel. Ma Zhou gloated at me to obey. The boss was pointing at Ma Zhou. Kneel down. Dr. Ye won't let you up today. You kneel till you die. Then he slapped Ma Zhou across the face for not kneeling faster, because the boss was Tang Feng, the son of the patriarch I'd healed that afternoon. And it turns out, the Tang family is the real power under this whole city, and the 4 dragon bosses are just dogs they keep. Ma Zhou had been groveling to me all night, and his god had just belly-flopped for me at the door. Tang Feng offered to sink Ma Zhou in the sea to make me happy. I let it go. He didn't know. I set one condition. No more protection money in the slum where my mom lived. Done. Forever. A nightmare the vendors never even knew I'd ended for them with one sentence. The 3 young masters got dragged out, and Huang Xiaoli, whose slap started the whole thing, fled the second she was free, while Shi Yuting and Han Shui chose to stay and share whatever came. The contrast wrote itself on Shi Yuting's face. She took Han Shui's hand. Decision made. I hired her on the spot to run my restaurant. Top finance student that she is. Outside, Ma Wenbo, Zhu Linlin, and a hired gang boss called Black Wolf had been waiting to break my legs the moment I left Ma Zhu's turf. 5 SUVs boxed my taxi, but Ma Zhu, desperate now to please me, came flying out, cracked a steel pipe over Black Wolf's skull, and made the whole gang kneel. Then Tang Feng asked Black Wolf who'd hired him. Ma Wenbo, 300 grand for the kid's 2 legs. Tang Feng shrugged. You took the money. Do the job. 2 legs. Doesn't matter whose. So Black Wolf broke Ma Wenbo's legs with the pipe he'd bought for mine. An eye for an eye, paid in full, with his own money. I was already in the taxi and gone. The greatest contempt is not looking back. Morning was quieter. And it hurt more because Mom cornered me. She's decided I need a girlfriend. Immediately. She pulls me aside, eyes shining at Shi Yuting, disappointed to hear she's Han Shui's, quizzes me about the policewoman. And then the real reason falls out. I almost went to the underworld in that hospital. If I pass one day, I want to see you married first. I told her she'll live to 100 now, that I'm the healthiest thing that ever happened to her. She wasn't having it. There was more underneath. She wants me settled so that if I ever find my birth parents, the ones who gave me up, she'll have done right by them. I have complicated feelings about those people. I want to know them, and I hate them for leaving. Mom, who was thrown out of her own family, just says gently that no parent gives up a child without a reason buried somewhere. I let it go. Then I redirected her the only way that works. My sister. Ouyang Jing, off at university, still working her summer job, refusing the $1 million I sent, insisting on saving it for my future wedding instead. Stubborn girl. She's not blood, and she's closer than blood. And I want her home eating well and never grieving over money again. I escaped before Mom could restart the girlfriend campaign, and Chin Choo Choo called. Red Lamborghini, get in, and... surprise! Pretend to be her boyfriend again, this time at a raw stone show hosted by the Luo family to fend off a fly named Luo Wentao. I told her we could skip the acting and just date for real. Mom's been nagging. She went red and said dream on, then quietly panicked, because ever since the Piano Prince video, her friend won't stop swooning over. My face keeps surfacing in her head, a feeling she's never had. She settled for demanding I answer whenever she calls. Domineering. I said fine, I'll be your long-term servant. two people this bad at this? It's a wonder either of us functions. Then she handed me the auction catalog, and two things stopped me cold. First, the Shirwai Tao Yuan community, my haunted complex, up for auction at 100 million, a fraction of the billion sunk into it, and the story attached. A great master Xuanji, a reclusive Taoist the whole city worships, had warned the developer years ago that the land was too yin, cursed, unbuildable. The developer ignored him, and then came the madness and the deaths, and now he's selling at a ruinous loss. Everyone reveres Xuanji for calling it, but I'd stood in that complex. The yin isn't natural. It's a profound yin array someone planted, and if Xuanji predicted too much yin before a single brick was laid, then Xuanji didn't predict the curse. Xuanji built it. The Luo family, by the way, rose from nothing to bigger than the Qins in 10 years, right after they bonded with Great Master Xuanji. Second, the last page. A small, strange bottle, not porcelain, carved with patterns no appraiser could place. My heart nearly stopped. A demon refining bottle, one of the 10 ancient divine artifacts in my sex records. It doesn't just cage evil, it refines evil into medicinal pills. With it, clearing that whole haunted complex becomes trivial. Starting price 100,000, because nobody at the auction house knew what it was. And when I asked where it came from, Choo said, casually, "Oh, that one's ours. The Qin family's. Been in the treasure room since my great-grandfather. Nobody ever figured out what it was. So Dad's auctioning it off." I nearly went through the sunroof. Her father was auctioning a divine artifact as junk. She promised to just bid it back and hand it to me. No appraiser could price it, so no one would fight her for it. Then we reached Paradise Club, the Luo family's playground, acres of it, and Luo Wentao himself came to greet us. Warm smile, approachable, and the instant he saw Choo on my arm, a flash of something cold and murderous behind the eyes, gone before anyone else could catch it. My divine sense caught it. Every rich boy I'd faced so far, Xiang, Ma Wenbo, wore his feelings on his face. This one was a smiling tiger. He'd already sentenced me to death in his head, and he's the type nobody ever sees do the killing. Choo called me her boyfriend to his face, on purpose, and his smile never flickered while his eyes promised something ugly. Then he suggested, ever so friendly, that we all go play a few rounds in his casino while we waited for the auction. The casino was the whole trap. Luo owns it, so Luo decides who wins. And his plan was simple. Hook the broke kid on gambling, bury me in high-interest debt, then own me. He offered me 200,000 in free chips. I turned it down. He needled my courage in front of Choo until I agreed, then acted like the fish had swallowed the hook. I bought 2 chips. 20,000 yuan, all I had on me. He nearly laughed. Then we played dice, big or small. And here's the thing about a rigged table. The dealer flips the dice the instant he lifts the cup. He did it the first round and took my chip. Fine, just checking the mechanism. Because from round 2 on, those 3 dice were mine. My true chi held them in place. A sledgehammer couldn't have moved them. I called big and got big. Every time. 2 chips. 4, 8, 16. The first dealer clutched his stomach and fled. They sent in Ghost Hand Lao Ba, a legend who could make dice dance. And he lost, sweated through his shirt. And I hit 20 million, 40, 80. He fainted. They sent in Master Jiao San, a Hong Kong grandmaster whose secret was shattering the dice mid-shake so I couldn't roll high. I armored each die with 3 threads of energy. His killer move bounced off. The cup came up 3 sixes, and the old man coughed blood on the table and passed out cold. Weak nerves, I told Luo. Get me someone healthier. I'm not done. The casino captain screamed I was cheating. From the beginning, the cup never left the dealer's hand, and I'd never touched the table. Even the watching gambler said so. Luo did the math out loud in his head. Pay 320 million and keep his casino's name, or welch and lose everything, plus lose face in front of Choo, plus keep alive his dream of marrying into the Qins and clawing it all back later. He paid. My phone buzzed with 320 million yuan. In under an hour, I'd gone from 20,000 to billionaire. And I finally understood the appeal. Getting something for nothing feels illegal. Then Luo, smiling with murder behind his eyes, walked us to the auction. And that's where it got interesting. They ran the catalog backing, so the mystery black bottle went first. My demon refining bottle. I nearly levitated when the tray came out. Real spirit energy pouring off it, the genuine article. I played it cool, blamed a leg cramp, because the last thing I wanted was to make anyone curious about the bottle. Starting price, 100,000, and before anyone could breathe, Luo stood and announced he was bidding 1 million on behalf of Great Master Xuanji. That name froze the room. Nobody bids against Xuanji. It's a suicide move. So Luo expected to walk off with a divine artifact for a courtesy price. A nice gesture toward the Qins, whose item it was. I raised my paddle. 2 million. The room gasped like I'd volunteered to be executed. Choo grabbed my arm, begging me to drop it, offering to buy me anything else. But this was one of 10 ancient divine artifacts, and I don't care if the seller's the king of heaven. I took the bottle. 2 million. Paid. Mine. while 100 rich people whispered that the ignorant kid had just signed his own death warrant defying Xuanji. Luo sat back down, smug, because he knew Xuanji's temper better than anyone. Whoever took that bottle was already a corpse. Then came the community. My haunted complex, up at 100 million against the billion sunk into it. Nobody bid. The story of the deaths had done its work. And then Luo Wentao stood, playing the generous friend, helping ruined developer Guan Dongping, and bid the opening 100 million. That's when the whole picture snapped clear. Xuanji warned the land was cursed before a single brick was laid. Then, once Guan had poured in 1 billion and nearly finished, someone planted a profound yin array to fill it with death and madness. Now it sells for scraps. Xuanji publicly cleanses it later, and the Luo family reaps a 1 billion yuan complex for pocket change. Guan Dongping's whole fortune harvested. He stood up and swore on his life the construction was sound, thanked Luo through tears. An honest man being robbed and grateful for it. The only person in the room who could see the con was me, so I raised my paddle. 150 million. Luo's face went dark. The kid who'd just stolen from Xuanji was now stealing the crown jewel of the whole scheme. He warned me to withdraw. You have no idea what that place is, and the Luo family won't be so kind as to buy it back when you're stuck. I smiled. Only a fool passes on a complex this cheap, and good always beats evil. I'm a righteous man with excellent luck. I can hold down one cursed development. He sat, seething, and let me have it, because in his head, my money was already his money, and Xuanji would emerge at dusk and settle everything. The bottle, the land, and me. I took the community. Guan Dongping signed it over, thanking me, and I told him to stay till the auction ended. I liked the man and wanted to talk. Chu fretted I'd never resell it. Luo sneered. The Luo family wouldn't give 10 million for it later. 10 million, I said. By then you couldn't afford one of my houses. Which was just true. The cheapest villa there runs over 10 million once the yin's gone. The auction rolled to its finale. The Good Fortune Celestial Pearl, supposedly handcrafted by Xuanji himself over 3 years, the whole reason half the room had come. Buy it, buy better luck. The auctioneer whipped off the red cloth, and an egg yolk-sized bead sat there shimmering rainbow light while billionaire started shouting bids before she'd finished the sentence. And Great Master Xuanji was due out of seclusion at dusk, on his way to this very club, with Luo Wentao praying he'd arrive in time to turn me to ash. The pearl bidding rocketed to 50 million. That's how much this city worships Xuanji's name. And it was, to my eyes, a plain jade bead with a cheap little glow spell painted on it. No power. Pure scam. If your luck turns good, credit the pearl. If it turns bad, the master has 100 explanations ready. Chu wanted it badly. Her father's orders. But the Chen family had only budgeted 100 million and was cash-strapped, and the price kept climbing. I told her flat, it's fake, worth less than 800 yuan. She didn't believe me. She thought I was being petty, refusing to lend her the money, and it stung her that I wouldn't. So I settled it. A flick of energy across the room, and the glow spell shattered. The dazzling celestial pearl went dull in the waiter's hand. Just a white jade bead, a couple 100 yuan of nothing. Chu, a jeweler's daughter, recognized it instantly and went cold, imagining the Qins spending their last liquid cash on that. She whispered a sorry. The whole room turned on Luo, and honest Guan Dongping, who'd been about to blow his last 100 million on it, withdrew his bid and walked out. The Luo family's big earner of the day collapsed on the spot. Because of me, Luo stood alone in an empty hall, and I'd stolen his casino cash, stolen his master's bottle, stolen the community, and torched the pearl. His only comfort left, Xuanji, out at dusk, would turn me to ash. Then I sat down with Guan Dongping, and I liked him more the longer we talked. Ruined, still paying his workers' wages before anything else. That's a man. I told him the truth. His cursed land was once beautiful feng shui, until someone tampered with it, someone who wanted it cheap. He put it together in one breath, Xuanji and the Luo family. I offered him 20% to rebuild the place. He refused charity and insisted on a salary instead. So we settled on 10 million a year, and he went to gather his crew and wait for my call. 3 days, I told him. Then you build. But first, the raw stone show. Acres of Myanmar boulders. And to my divine sense, every one was transparent. I could read the jade inside like a label. The whole yard was an ATM. I just had to not look obvious. Then I spotted a squat black rock a staff member was using as a stool in Luo's private, not for sale pile. And to me, it blazed like treasure. I wanted it. And the only way to get it was for Luo to hand it over. Luo Wentao gave me the opening himself. He was steering Chu toward a 30 million top lot with a green window cut in it, playing the expert, student of a top 10 Myanmar appraiser. And I told her not to buy it. There's nothing inside. 3 million at most after it's cut. He challenged me to a jade gambling duel, best of 5. If he won, I'd hand over the community deed and the bottle. If I won, 100 million. And I added the black stool rock to the pot. He agreed, certain a first-timer couldn't beat a master's eye. He didn't know I had 2 edges. My divine sense read every stone. And my new demon refining bottle, it turns out, doesn't just eat evil. It drains spirit energy too. So when I patted Luo's beautiful stones in regret, I quietly sucked the jade energy right out of them and into the bottle, where it condensed into crystal spirit chi pills. His stones died in my hand. Mine, the ugly cheap ones nobody wanted, came alive. Round 1. Luo cut his gorgeous boulder into a dozen pieces of white nothing. My 2,000 yuan reject rubbed open to full green ice jade, millions on the spot. Round 2. His 30 million top lot, the one his own master had praised, came up bone white but for a sliver at the window. My 10,000 yuan lump of granite opened to a slab of red jade just as big. Chu bought both off me for 10 million each. I told her to just take them. 2 rounds, 2 humiliations, and Luo. Down 50 million, and certain now I'd secretly eyed something special. Snatched up my third choice as his own stake, betting the very stone he thought I coveted. Round 3. I let him. My new stone opened to violet jade, imperial purple, the rarest color, another 20 million, and now I held all 3. Green, red, purple. Fu, Lu, Shou. Fortune, prosperity, longevity. The 3-color set that jewelers dream of, worth 70 or 80 million together. And I handed the whole lot to Chu because the only prizes I actually wanted that day were already mine. The bottle, the casino money, the community. Luo's own boulder, the one he'd stolen from my picks, split open completely empty, except for one egg-sized red stone in the center that snapped a steel saw blade in half. He snatched it up, sure he'd finally struck gold, and found a fiery red rock, smooth, hard, and absolutely not jade. Not valuable at all, to anyone else. Luo hurled the useless red pebble away and screamed for more cutting. His boulder came up empty. And in the noise, nobody noticed the little red stone on the ground quietly vanish into my pocket. I'd been after it the whole time. Luo was purple, 3 rounds down, 100 million owed. And then the crowd parted and a voice cried out, "Great Master Zhuangji has come!" An old Taoist glided in against the sunset, gray robes, whisk, sword on his back, hair streaming, every inch the immortal descending from heaven. Luo's despair flipped to glee. "Kid, you're dead. I dragged this bed out on purpose, waiting for the master to emerge. You stole his treasure, ruined his plans, and now you're finished." The whole crowd went pale on my behalf. I turned to the great immortal and said, calmly, "I'll give you the bottle. Do you dare take it?" Then Zhuangji got close enough to see my face, and bolted, turned and ran, robes flapping, whisk forgotten, every ounce of immortal dignity gone. Because the legendary great master Zhuangji, the god the whole city worshipped, was the sinister old Taoist I'd cooked with his own fire dragon at the antique market. He'd gone into seclusion to heal and walked straight out into me again. I didn't let him get 5 steps. 2 silver needles to the knees dropped him face first in the mud, and I put my foot on his head. "I'll give you the bottle. Do you dare take it?" He begged. I dare not! Spare this humble Taoist great master." The crowd stood frozen, watching their living god grovel and call this college kid master. Then I drove 2 more needles into his core and crippled his cultivation for good. A lifetime of practice, gone. For him, worse than death. Then I used the soul-stabilizing 7 needles, the technique that makes a man answer like an honest schoolboy, and asked him, out loud, in front of 100 witnesses, "Was the haunted community your scheme?" "I did it," he said, blank-faced. "The Luo family and I wanted the land. When Guangdongping was nearly finished, we planted the profound yin array so he couldn't sell, so the Luo family could take it cheap." The whole plot confessed. The reclusive god fell out of the sky in every heart in that yard. Luo Wentao, cold as ever, disavowed him on the spot. "Our family was deceived by this old fraud too. We're victims. Thank you for exposing him." I didn't care about his lies. I pulled the needles, kicked the old man off to fend for himself, and told Luo to pay his 100 million. He didn't have the cash. His liquid money was all in this exhibition, so he offered stones instead, at a discount. Fine. I walked his yard and handpicked every rough stone that could double in value, and cleaned the whole exhibition out. Chu lent me a chin warehouse to store the haul. Then she drove me home in an S-shaped line down the empty midnight street, too flustered to steer straight, because on the way she'd kissed my cheek and fled, muttering that now that she'd spent her own first kiss on me, I wasn't getting away. I didn't see the other thing that happened that night. On a dark path, the crippled Zhuan Xuanji sat trying uselessly to find his lost energy, swearing his sect would avenge him. And Luo Wentao walked up with 2 men and put a knife through his heart. Not out of loyalty gone, out of math. A crippled Xuanji with a vengeful sect behind him was a loose end pointing at the Luo family. A dead Xuanji was a frame job. His sect would come hunting the man who'd crippled him, me. Back at the hotel, I finally studied my prize. The red pebble was an earth flame heart. A crystal of the purest fire, dormant now, but able to burn a building to ash once woken. Better than my old plan for the community. I could set fire against the yin and rebuild the whole array into something new. I poured a spirit chi pill out of the demon refining bottle too. Condensed from the jade energy I drained off Luo's stones, worth 50 million in raw material, wasted on me now that I'm past foundation. Then I drew talismans all day, and at dusk of the 3rd day, I went to the community. The yin was twice as thick as before. I set a talisman net around the perimeter, and He Shuang came racing up, scared of the place, unwilling to let me go in alone, and clinging to my back like a rider by the time I stopped teasing her about it. She'd also come with bad news I could read off her body. 2 days of yin exposure had turned that little chest lump into late-stage breast cancer. The hospital wanted to operate that morning. She refused, because she knew exactly who to run to. I told her it was my fault for making her call me uncle. She told me it was my fault for being an uncle, and we agreed to argue about whose fault it was while I fixed it. Then I walked into the dark with her on my back. The blood skull rose, bigger, redder, healed and hungry, and threw its whole army at me. Talismans burned the small fry to ash. 5 thunder talismans hit the skull, and it swallowed the lightning whole. Too strong now. So I leapt, uncorked the demon refining bottle, and called it in. A river of energy poured out, caught the fleeing skull mid-turn, and dragged the king of the place screaming into the bottle. Then I swept the yard. Every evil thing sucked in, the ones bolting for the exit snared in my talisman net just long enough to be collected. In moments, the air went warm and clean. At the dead center, I stamped my foot, and a profound yin pearl shot out of the ground, frost blooming across the flowers around it. The ice-cold treasure Xuanji had used to power his array. I pulled it, and the whole profound yin array collapsed. Then I found his formation flags stashed in a nearby tree, exactly the materials I'd been missing. And with the yin pearl and the earth flame heart as twin cores, I built my own thing over the whole complex, a yin-yang 5-element slaved. Shuang thought I'd gone mad reburying a bead I'd just dug up, until I activated it. And to her left, the sky went clear and starry, while to her right, a soft rain fell. Then snow on one side, spring breeze on the other. She touched both, gaping, and asked if I was God. In this community, yes. Warm as spring in winter, cool in summer, air like medicine, spiritual energy thick enough that living here wards off disease and stretches a life. A paradise. She immediately demanded 3 units, price be damned, moving her grandpa in. The most cursed address in the city was about to become the one people would line up and beg to buy into. Then I healed her. She braced herself for the massage therapy I'd threatened, eyes shut, chin up, ready to sacrifice her dignity. And I handed her a spirit chi pill instead and told her it was a joke. She nearly killed me. That pill's worth over 50 million in ingredients alone, wasted on a lump this small. So I made it count. I fed it to her along with a cultivation art, the white jade qigong, channeling my energy to light her core. The cancer dissolved, the lump vanished, and she blew clean through to yellow rank, middle stage. A real martial artist, the thing she'd chased her whole life while master after master refused to teach her. She shattered a rock with one punch, then leapt onto me and kissed my face all over. And I asked whether she was celebrating or just skipping her consultation fee. No money, she said, arms around my neck. But I've got a man, take him. Careful, say that again, and I take you home as my wife. We ate seafood at a midnight street stall. The Hey heiress insisting the roadside stuff beats any fancy restaurant, and toasted. And then the floor show started at the next table. A young man storming off from a visibly pregnant woman, the crowd instantly branding him a scumbag for abandoning her, until he shouted that the child wasn't his. And the woman, without a flicker of shame, declared that didn't matter, he was her boyfriend, so he could just raise it. I nearly choked on my beer. 20 years on this earth, and I'd never seen someone frame cheating as a human right, then invoice the victim for childcare. The crowd flipped, calling her shameless. And she doubled down that her belly was her business and Asian men were beneath her tastes anyway, until her ex slapped her flat and walked. Nobody helped her up. I turned to Shuang. You women call us men scum. That, I think, is what a scum woman looks like. Then my mother declared war. She'd found a matchmaking corner in the park and booked me 3 blind dates before I'd finished breakfast. I told her I hadn't even graduated. She told me love was law. Choo Choo didn't answer her phone. Shuang Shuang's was off, deep in cultivation. So off I went, Mom standing guard at the cafe door like a prison warden. Blind date number 1 walked in an hour late and sat down like she owned the building. It was Zhang Yuansheng, the scumbag woman from the seafood stall. Broke up last night, on the market this morning. She laid out her terms. Sign all my property to her name, do all the housework, ask no questions while she does whatever she pleases. And I asked why she thought I'd agree. Because I'm a woman, and a woman treats herself well. She'd never met a man who'd say no. She met me. I told her she was not only mentally ill, but physically too. And since she'd been so proud of her adventurous tastes, she should know black men have the world's highest HIV rate. And congratulations, she'd hit the jackpot. She and the baby both. She screamed I was cursing her. Her phone rang mid-scream. Central Hospital, calling to confirm she and her unborn child had tested positive. The phone hit the floor and shattered. There's always a reason the pitiful are pitiful. I walked. Number 2. A woman under a full centimeter of makeup who demanded I do all the chores while she shops, sings, and games on my money. I told her none of that was a problem. Let's just see if you can take a beating. She left. Number 3. Mom swore would be different. Number 3 was Sun Xiaotong, my high school classmate. The one who, on a 200 yuan bet that she couldn't seduce me, lost, got furious, and reported me to the school for molestation. A lie my mother had to kneel and pay 2,000 yuan to make go away right before my college exams. She'd booked a private room for a dozen because the blind date was cover for a family shakedown. Her relatives poured in, ordered 16 expensive dishes and 6 bottles of 10,000 yuan Mao Tai. And her bald uncle offered, so generously, to get me a hospital internship for a mere 200,000 yuan. Sun Xiaotong sneered that my mother's big restaurant was really a steamed bun shack and called me a marriage fraudster. Then Dean Xie Donglin walked in to hand-deliver my appointment letter. Honorary Dean of the city's traditional medicine hospital. Sun Xiaotong laughed that I'd hired an actor, until her bald uncle recognized Xie as the real director he'd once begged for an ambulance driver job. The uncle groveled, and Xie, delighted to learn he knew me, offered him the hospital's cushy logistics supervisor post on the spot. Then Xie glanced at me for approval. No need, I said. I'm not familiar with him. The job evaporated between one breath and the next. A man who'd wanted 200 grand to find me work just watched a golden job appear and vanish on my single sentence. Then the delivery started. The He family butler arrived with a property deed and keys. Yunding Mountain Villa No. 1, the old patriarch's own house, gifted to me as the last of his life debt once he learned Mom and I had no real home. Sun Xiaotong's mother, who just mocked me for owning nothing, went quiet when the butler produced the tax receipt. 5 million in taxes alone, on a 100 million villa with 50 million in renovations. Then the Tang family butler arrived with a car key nobody recognized. A Pagani, a one-of-one limited edition built for the Chinese market. 50 million with the custom fingerprint locks. The niece who worked at a dealership had just called it a no-name domestic car. The Sun family flipped like a switch. Suddenly, I was perfect for their Xiaotong. Suddenly, we looked like a married couple. I looked at Sun Xiaotong, whose scattered energy read like a woman who'd had an abortion not long ago, and told her flatly she wasn't good enough for me. They raged that a poor country boy would never find better. Who wants to see better? A bell of a voice at the door. Chin Choo Choo, Chin Eris, vice president of the company Sun Xiaotong worked at, walking in dressed to meet her future mother-in-law and taking my arm. My boyfriend went on a blind date, so I came to check. The room stopped breathing. Sun Xiaotong went from smug beauty to dull hen the instant the phoenix arrived. I took Tutu's hand to leave, and Sun Xiaotong's father blocked the door. 70,000 yuan of food and Mao Tai on the table, and now they wanted the rich kid to pay for the meal they'd ordered to shake me down. I laughed. When did I say I'd treat you? The cousin Zhao Ziping threatened to call his big online cousin. Pay up, or I don't leave alive. Is that so? I said. Let's see how you keep me here. The cousin called his big shot cousin, and a dozen thugs marched in, led by the mohawk I'd fed his own steamed buns to. He took one look at me and froze, hissing at the cousin to shut up because our dragon head is here. Then Master Ma Jiu himself jogged in, head down, and asked why I hadn't warned him I'd be dining at his hotel, so he could serve me personally. He owns the place. He pressed a 5 million yuan yuan check into my hand, an apology for last time, and I flicked it and turned to Sun Xiaotong. Now we've got a 7-figure account. Then I told Ma Ju these people pay their own bill, every yuan, and if they can't, they clean toilets. And I walked out, leaving the family who tried to shake me down to split a 70,000 yuan tab or scrub porcelain. Outside, Mom was waiting under a tree, and when Choo-Choo introduced herself, clutching her hem, shy, "Hello, Auntie, I'm Xiaofan's girlfriend." Mom lit up like a holiday and held her hands like she'd already adopted her. The girlfriend campaign was officially over. Choo-Choo even quietly dressed Mom head to toe in clothes worth 5 figures, hiding the prices so my mother, who'd never bought a cosmetic in her life, wouldn't refuse. Smart girl. She knows the road to me runs straight through my mother. Then the work started. My haunted complex, now warm and clean, and hundreds of workers too scared to step inside. So I told them the truth. An expert had handled it. I'd walk in first, and doubled their pay on top of Guan's tripling, with 10 million to any family if anything went wrong, 6 times the going rate, and a fortune in insurance. They felt the warmth in the air, believed me, and went to work. I wasn't going to sell a single unit though. Not yet. Not while the name still stank. Build it all, then open the gates. Guan needed 500 million to finish it my way. I gave him my 200 and told him I'd find the rest. No pre-sales, no advertising. My community's future buyers don't read ads, which is exactly when a media parasite named Bihai Quan rolled up in a Ferrari, gawked at my Pagani, and demanded I hand him the car plus 30% of the community. As his investment being his name. Guan whispered that B ran the city's biggest media company and had smeared a healthy food giant into bankruptcy for sport. Cross him, and no outlet will run our ads and he'll bury our reputation. I gave B a 10-second countdown. At 1, I kicked him 7 meters. He fled, swearing I'd never sell a single house. Guan sighed about the trouble ahead. I told him nobody would need an ad to line up for paradise. Then a call from a colder corner of my family. My mother's youngest sister, Oh Young-Hui. Sharp-tongued, mean, and, more than that, ungrateful in a way that turns your stomach when you know the history. My mother is the eldest of 6. Their father died young. Their mother broke down from overwork, and my mom gave up a top exam score to work and raise all of them. To keep 2 younger sisters in university, she married herself off to a playboy in the county for 50,000 yuan. Sold her own future so Oh Yang-Hui could graduate. And when that playboy gambled the money away and left her with a daughter, and later, me, Oh Yang-Hui, safely employed at the county health bureau by then, didn't help. She sneered instead. A few days ago, when my mother was dying in the ICU and I called her in desperation, she told me that even if her own sister died, the 3,000 yuan still had to be repaid. Now she'd come to collect it. Her and her son Kang Ji-jun, a bully 2 years my junior who used to torment my sister and me. They walked into my restaurant, sneering that the bun seller was faking wealth to dodge the debt. Mom paid the 3,000. Then Kang Ji-jun demanded interest. When I pointed out my mother had paid this woman's entire college tuition, Oh Yang-Hui said her sister was supposed to. Then came the gifts. Premium Longjing tea she kept for herself, and a bag of 10 yuan loose black tea she handed my mother, because that's the class she'd assigned us. I nearly lost it. My mother, who cares about the bond and not the gift, took the cheap tea and diffused me with her eyes. Then slipped Kang Ji-jun a 5,000 yuan red envelope, more than the whole debt. Kindness with no floor. That's how she keeps getting robbed. It turned out the real reason they'd come? Kang Shi-jun had a strange illness, splitting headaches every night, fine by day, and no hospital in Beijing could name it. They wanted Master Chow at Baikao Hall to treat him and had bribed a health bureau secretary to get an introduction. My mother, glowing, offered my help. I know people in this city. They laughed in our faces. A bun seller and a broke student offering to help them. They refused, twice, and left without a goodbye, money in hand. Mom still tried to hail them a taxi. I pulled her back and threw the 10 yuan tea in the trash. She asked me to forgive her sister, said she'd raised the girl herself, so any cruelty was her own failing. That's my mother. She'll carry the blame for the people who hurt her. I didn't see the darker thing moving that day. Luo Wentao had shipped the crippled Xuanji's corpse, the one Luo himself had knifed, back to the man's sect, the Qingyun Dao Guan, with a tidy story. Yi Bufan stole the master's treasure and murdered him, and poor Luo arrived too late to save anyone. Xuanji's senior brother Xuanhuo and senior sister Xuanying. A profound rank nun, 80 years old under a 40-year-old face, rage where the serenity should be, swallowed the frame whole and demanded my exact location, coming to kill me for a murder I didn't commit. And Cao had called me in to fix his acupuncture. So I walked into Baikao Hall, right past Oh Yang-Hui and Kang Ji-jun, who'd been turned away at the door because Cao was seeing no one. They assumed I'd come to leech off their appointment. Instead, I strolled straight into Cao's room while they were barred, and the triage girl looked at them like they were insane for comparing themselves to divine Dr. Ye, Cao's senior brother, the one man the Grandmaster obeys without question, the owner of the restaurant restaurant they'd just eaten in for free. The aunt who'd handed my mother 10 yuan tea an hour earlier stood in the lobby of a clinic that would open its sealed doors for me and no one else, watching her whole picture of us shatter, while her son, still not learning, cursed that the bastard with the giant restaurant had only fed them 4 dishes. The aunt swallowed her pride and used my name to get in the door, and Kang Ji-jun ended up on Sao's table. Because I'd already read his illness back at the restaurant. His nightly headaches were evil chi possession, worst at midnight when the yin peaks. Left alone, he had maybe a week to live. So I told Sao I'd demonstrate the expel evil 13 needles for him, and mentioned there was, conveniently, a patient with evil chi right here. Then I locked Kang Ji-jun's whole body still with a needle, spoke to him in a voice only he could hear, reminding him exactly how he'd bullied my sister and me for years, and how his mother forgot my mother's every sacrifice. And demonstrated, for Cao's education, the first common mistake in the technique. 13 needles of pure bone-deep agony, no cure attached, while Kang screamed silently, unable to twitch. See how this one fails, I told Cao. Then the second mistake, no pain this time, just an itch from the depths of his soul, 100 times worse, and no way to scratch. Then I pulled them all and did the real thing. Evil expelled in one clean pass, cured. Every scream had been a rehearsal of the wrong method. He lunged the second he could move. I lifted him by the throat with one hand and told him his bullying days were over. Cured, for my mother's sake, and cut off forever. They didn't take it well. Mother and son went straight to my restaurant and put a rock through the front glass, betting, correctly, that my mother would never call the police on her own sister. But they didn't know. Maju now posts a rotating guard on the place, and today it was Scarface, who reveres Lord Yi, and beat the pair to the floor before they got a second stone. Then my mother ran out and threw herself between the thugs and the sister who'd spent a lifetime abusing her, begging them to stop. That's who she is. I got there, laid the whole ingrate story out for the gathered crowd. I saved his life, and he smashed my hotel. And the crowd turned hard against the aunt. And still my mother pulled me back. She's my sister. If she did wrong, take it out on me. So I let them slink upstairs with her, tipped Scarface a fat stack, and left before I said something I couldn't take back. I drove up to the villa the He family had gifted me. Yunding Mountain, number 1, the peak of the city, a whole city laid out below, helipad on the roof, a garage already stocked with a BMW, a Porsche, and a Passat for the nanny. I stretched out by the pool under the stars, and then spoke into the dark. Are you two going to lurk all night? Doesn't it get dull? Out of the shadows stepped a nun and an old Taoist. Xuanying and Xuanhuo of the Qingyun sect come to avenge Xuanji, the man Luo had murdered and pinned on me. I told them the truth. I crippled Xuanji. I didn't kill him. Ask whoever sent you. They didn't want to hear it. Xuanhuo drew a sword wrapped in black evil qi and thrust for my heart while I lay there. I floated off the chair, snapped his wrist, took the sword, and ran him through with his own blade. And the evil thing drank him dry, turning a tall man into a husk in a blink. Then his senior sister, Xuanying, a profound rank nun, hit me with a cold ice palm that flooded my meridians with killing cold. And I burned it off with pure yang and knocked her back 7 meters. She uncorked a black gourd that poured out a 6-jang python of pure yin, and the demon refining bottle swallowed it whole, then blew her gourd apart. She switched from murder to greed in a heartbeat, offering to wipe the whole feud clean for the bottle. I told her she should be thinking about getting out alive, not the treasure. One punch, and she was vomiting blood and fleeing. You don't leave an evil sorcerer alive to bite you later. So I chased her over the wall into a neighboring mansion, and straight into a completely different mess. She'd vanished, and a dozen knife men came at me instead. I dropped them and climbed the stairs to a top-floor hall where a pretty girl sat roped to a chair, one kidnapper holding a dagger to her throat, another a pistol on me. They kept calling me the Goo family, and I kept telling them I'd never heard of any Goo family. I was chasing someone else. The gunman didn't believe the retreat act and fired. I'd already locked onto him with divine sense and slid aside before the trigger moved. One needle through his brow dropped him. 2 more took the knife man before his blade did more than nick her neck. I cut the girl loose, and instead of sobbing, she bounced up, sparkling. Big brother, you dodged a bullet. You're so cool. Be my boyfriend. 18. Fearless. A baby face on a figure that would not quit, and a mouth that never stopped. She wasn't scared. The kidnappers only wanted leverage over her family, and her aunt would have come regardless. She scratched her neck, fussing about a scar. So I dabbed on my own wound salve, and while I did it, she pressed against me, announcing she was very much not too young, then kissed my cheek in thanks. Gu Chow Chow, she said her name was. And then a voice like a blade came off the stairs. Let her go, or I kill you now. I turned, and for a second I forgot the fight. A woman in white, beautiful enough to topple a dynasty. But where He Shuang Shuang runs hot and Choo Choo runs warm, this one was carved from ice. A jade statue with the temperature dropping around her, a dozen elite bodyguards at her back, and a profound rank aura of her own. Gu Qiao lit up, "Auntie!" and ran to her, then turned and introduced us. Gu Qingcheng. The girl explained I was her savior, not her captor. The Ice Queen's expression didn't thaw a degree. She sent her niece off to shower so she could interrogate me alone, convinced the whole rescue was an elaborate hero saves the girl scam to worm into the Gu family. I told her the truth. Chasing a thief, stumbled in, never heard of the Gu family. She didn't buy a word, blocked the door, and threw a punch that whistled. So I taught the arrogant Ice Queen a lesson, dodged, caught her ankle, pinned both her arms behind her, bent her over a table, and spanked her like a misbehaving heiress until she stopped ordering my death. She raged, then went quiet, then, mortifyingly for a woman who's never bowed to anyone, apologized. I made her go one further and sing Conquer for saving her niece, loud and on key, before I let her up. First time in her life she'd apologized to anyone, and the coldest woman in the province was standing there red to the ears, wondering why she wasn't furious. Gu Qiao bounced back in, freshly showered, and asked who'd been singing Conquer. Her aunt nearly melted through the floor. Over dinner, the girl decided her cold aunt had special feelings for me. First man to make her blush, first to thaw her, first she'd ever invited to a meal. And, without a shred of jealousy, offered to step aside so I could pursue the aunt instead. She even hijacked my phone and set a stolen beach bikini photo of Gu Qingcheng as my wallpaper. Ice-cold face, and a figure that could bankrupt a man's kidneys. 25, never dated, cold to everyone but the niece she'd raised like a daughter. I filed all of it away and tried not to bleed from the nose. While I ate, two darker things were moving. Xuan Ying, healed and vengeful, had gone to Luo Wentao with a plan. She couldn't beat me head-on. But I had a mother. Kidnap her. And I'd fold. Luo told her exactly where, the Zui Jiangnan restaurant, and lent her 4 disposable men. And in that restaurant, my aunt was writing her own ending. Ouyang Hui had squeezed my mother for 700,000, extorting compensation for a beating her own son provoked. Then kicked my mother out of her own room to sleep on the floor of an empty private room, locked the door, and started looting the closet. She found the designer clothes Choo had gifted my mother, tags cut off so mom would never see the prices, and pulled on the Chanel dress, the Armani shoes, the LV bag, the Omega watch, the platinum necklace, admiring herself in my mother's mirror. Then she and Kang Ji-jun started planning something worse, kill me and my sister. So my mother would have no heirs and they'd inherit the whole restaurant. He knew people who did that kind of work. He was mid-scheme, dressed in my mother's stolen clothes, when the window burst open and 4 black-clad men came through. They cut Kang Ji-jun's throat before he finished sneering, and they grabbed Ouyang Hui. Because she was wearing my mother's brand new outfit and jewelry, the exact clothes their scout had watched Ouyang Lan buy the day before. They gagged her, checked her against a photo, confirmed it's her, and carried her off into the night, leaving her son in a pool of blood. She'd stolen my mother's clothes to feel superior, and the theft made her the hostage. Every why she'd ever chosen. Collect the debt, smash the window, evict my mother, wear her clothes. Had marched her straight into that rope. Then my phone rang at the dinner table. Suan Ying's voice. "Ye Bufan, your mother is in my hands. Western suburbs, half an hour, no police, or collect a corpse." I was already running. Gu Qingcheng floored the Rolls-Royce and got the 3 of us to a quiet valley in 20 minutes, headlights cutting the dark. And 30 meters out, before divine sense could even reach, my eyes told me the truth in the moonlight. The woman tied between 2 men wasn't my mother. It was Ouyang Hui, in my mother's stolen clothes. My mother was safe somewhere, and this whole trap had grabbed the wrong woman. I told Xuan Ying flat out, "You took the wrong person. That's not my mother. That's my aunt. We just look alike." She thought I was bluffing to seem calm. Her scout swore he'd tailed the mother for days, watched her buy that very outfit. So Xuan Ying decided to break me by breaking her. "This is for Xuanji," and she snapped Ouyang Hui's left arm. "This is for Xuanhuo," and she snapped the right. My aunt fainted, came to screaming through the gag when a leg went too. In moments, the woman who'd extorted my mother that afternoon had all 4 limbs shattered. Punishment for crimes that were mine in Xuan Ying's eyes and never hers. I hate her. She's still my mother's sister. And I couldn't stand there and watch her killed. And I was 30 meters too far to stop it. So I gave the nun what she wanted. "Fine, she's my mother. Name your terms." Her terms. Hand over the black bottle, and let her cripple my cultivation to avenge her 2 junior brothers. She swore on her ancestors she wouldn't kill me after. I told her if the 3 pure ones had ears, they'd have struck her down already. But she had the hostage, or thought she did. So I sighed and agreed to walk over and be crippled. She was too scared to let me close, made me stand still while she approached, then threw me a blindfold, certain a blind man couldn't counter her, profound rank or not. She forgot my divine sense is 100 times better than eyes. I tied the cloth on, put my hands behind my back, and when her kick came for my core, I slid aside and snapped her neck before her toe landed. She died with her eyes open, never understanding how a blindfolded man had killed her. At the same instant, Gu Qingcheng, who I'd signaled behind my back, moved like a whirlwind, because nobody had noticed the Ice Queen was a profound rank master too, and dropped all 3 guards before they could hurt Ouyang Hui. It should have ended there. Then I felt it. A wave of dread. Bomb! Luo's 3 men were suicide assassins, and seeing the plan dead, they detonated together. I grabbed Gu Qingcheng and ran, got 2 steps, and the blast caught us, tore through my energy shield, blood up my throat and across her face. And I went down on top of her, using my body to eat the flying gravel. My aunt, closest to the blast, was gone. And Gu Qingcheng, a woman who'd been strong and untouched her whole life, lay under a man who'd just spent his own blood to shield her, and felt the ice in her crack. I stood up, coughed the injury out, more of a mess than a wound, and because the Ice Queen was crying over me, I couldn't resist telling her I was mortally hurt with no time left, and asking, since I'd never been kissed, if she'd grant a dying man one wish. She kissed me before I finished the sentence, heart wide open, and Gu Qiao, who misses nothing, pointed out that a dying man doesn't kiss back like that, and busted me. Gu Qingcheng shoved me off, scarlet, swearing revenge on me for tricking her, while secretly mortified she'd kissed a man of her own free will. Then He Shuang showed up with the police for the 5 bodies, took one look at the beautiful stranger on my arm, and announced, "Hello, I'm Xiao Fan's girlfriend." Gu Qingcheng didn't blink. I could say the same. Gu Qiao helpfully introduced me to the cop as my uncle, and I aged a decade in a sentence. The 2 women went to war over the wallpaper on my phone. Bikini photo for bikini photo. And in the tug of war over the handset, 2 profound and yellow rank martial artists crushed my poor old Xiaomi into powder. R.I.P. Then I called Mom, and the relief hit like the blast had. She was safe, asleep on a private room floor, kicked out of her own room by the sister who'd then died wearing her stolen clothes in her place. Heaven's arithmetic, paid in full. Kang Ji-jun's body was upstairs. My mother wept for a sister who'd bled her dry that very afternoon, because that's my mother. And I made a quiet decision. My enemies keep getting stronger, and I can't guard her every hour. She needs a protective artifact of her own. The next morning, both women dragged me phone shopping, and it turned into an arms race. He Shuang bought me a 350,000 yuan Virtu. Gu Qingcheng topped it with a 3.5 million custom job. Ruby keypad, sapphire buttons, meant to be her father's birthday gift, handed to me instead. Then they started bidding on 10 million and 100 million customs until I physically stopped them. And who was in the store to narrate my poverty but Huang Xiaoli? The KTV coward who'd fled and gotten herself cut off by everyone, now a greasy fat man's mistress, sneering that the 2 beauties were being conned by a broke gigolo. I pointed at her sugar daddy and noted we were, technically, in the same boat. Except one of us gets kept by beautiful billionaires, and one of us gets kept by that. She flushed and doubled down until Choo-Choo walked in with her friends, spotted me being called a kept man, and handed me a check. 80 million, the Chin Group's payment for the Fulu show Jade. Like it was a receipt. The room went silent. Huang Xiaoli, who'd bet her whole identity on me being poor, watched a billionaire pocket 80 million without looking at it. And her fat man, having seen exactly how far out of his league these women were, lost all interest in buying her anything at all. Choo-Choo cut the fat man off cold. Sever all ties with the Chin Group. And he slapped his own mistress and made her kneel and apologize to me on the spot to save his company. Huang Xiaoli, still convinced I was a kept man being bankrolled by Choo-Choo, knelt in the middle of the store while a crowd gathered to watch 3 stunning heiresses fight over one broke-looking kid. Then the 3 of them turned it into an arms race. Ha Shuang's Virtu, Gu Qingcheng's custom 3.5 million phone meant for her father, escalating toward 10 and 100 million until I begged them to stop. Choo-Choo found her own angle. Instead of a 4th phone, she topped up my credit and my mother's. 3.5 million yuan of phone credit onto Mom's number, credit that wouldn't run dry for 3 generations. And, quietly, a bid for my mother's heart. Sharpest of the 3. I ended up using Ha Shuang's phone and handing Gu Qingcheng's to Mom, which let the Ice Queen play the dutiful future daughter-in-law. Everyone got a foothold. Nobody made me choose. Yet. Then Choo-Choo called me to the Qin warehouse to buy my raw stones, and her grandfather crashed the deal. Qin Dongliang, patriarch, and cousin Qin Guowei, her rival for the company, who'd clearly been poisoning the old man against her. Guowei sprang his trap. I'd bought the stones for 100 million and was selling them to the Chins for 300. So surely Choo-Choo was funneling company money to her boyfriend. Fraud, he called it, threatening police, prison, watching his own path to president open up. Choo-Choo couldn't prove the stones were worth more, so I handed the check back, told them not to buy it all, and called for 10 stonecutters. Every stone I'd picked was a winner. The first opened to glass-type imperial green the size of a volleyball. The old man threw his teacup, shoved the master aside, and cut it himself. Then hugged the jade and kissed it, swearing he'd never seen its equal in a lifetime in the trade. He paid 100 million for that one piece on the spot. Then the next master hit ice green, and the next full green, and red, and violet. Every single boulder in the warehouse held top jade. Not one miss. A thing no eye and no machine on earth can do. Guo Wei stood there getting slapped by reality, and then by his grandfather's actual hand, because his accusation had just cost the Chins the 300 million bargain and forced them to pay full market. The old man appraised the lot himself, 1.25 billion. He begged me not to sell elsewhere, paid 500 million down with 200 to follow, and left promising to settle scores with his grandson at home. Choo-Choo laughed so hard she shook and kissed my cheek for handing her cousin his defeat and her the win. Then she sent me a wallpaper of her own, fresh from the bath, not a swimsuit, and I nearly bled out through my nose. But my mother wasn't laughing. She sat alone staring out the window, hollowed by Oh Young-Hui's death, guilty over a sister who'd extorted her that same afternoon, because that's the size of her heart. Choo-Choo came to cheer her, dressed her head to toe, took us to dinner at the finest place in the development zone. She'd figured out the road to me runs through my mother, and she wasn't wrong. 2 hyenas smelled the money, though. B. Haichuan, the media thug I'd kicked, spotted us walking in and called a friend. Qian Gui, the restaurant's manager, whose brother, Qian Biao, runs the development zone underworld with 50 men. B wanted me stepped on. Qian promised to handle it and quietly told a waiter to prepare something and his brother to get ready. And then my mother's phone rang, and she slipped out to take it. It was her brother's, my uncle's. Oh Young-De first, then all 3 on the line, with the same demand dressed up as grief. Oh Young-Hui died at your restaurant, so you owe us. Never mind that the police had ruled it a kidnapping murder. They'd learned my mother suddenly owned an 80 million restaurant, and greed did the rest. They wanted the restaurant handed over. When my mother said it was mine, not hers to give, they got uglier. That kid isn't even Oh Young blood. He's a bastard you picked up off the street. Why does he get the restaurant and not us, your real family? Then they named a number, 10 million. 2 million per brother plus the funeral, or sell the place. My mother, who spends her whole life folding, refused this one. The restaurant is Xiao Fan's. I have no right to it. And they called her heartless, asked how she'd face their dead parents. I sat in the private room while she took it. And I already knew the shape of it because a kind person gets bullied and a good horse gets ridden. And nowhere is that truer than my mother. And this time, they'd said the word out loud. Bastard, picked up. The one that finds the old wound every time. Choo-Choo was already furious on Mom's behalf. I just told her not to worry, because whatever they decided at their little family meeting, they were about to learn that the bastard they picked up handles the bills now. While Mom took that call, a waiter body-checked her, smashed a glass, and blamed her. Then the price to replace 1 cup climbed from 1,000 yuan to 10,000 to 100,000 as the manager and then the owner, Qian Gui, escalated it, offering my mother the choice of scrubbing toilets for a year or my girlfriend sleeping with the boss for a month. Whole thing was B. Haiquan's setup, run through Qian Gui, whose brother Qian Biao rules the development zone underworld with 50 men. I put the manager through a wall, and Qian Biao came up with 30 knife men promising to take my legs. He generously offered to let me call anyone I wanted first, so I called Tang Feng, and Tang Feng, the real power under this whole city, lit the beacon. For the first time since he took the underworld, he issued the emergency order, and every dragon boss in Jiangnan came running to grovel to Lord Ye. Iron Crutch Li of the south first, then Ma Jiu of the east with hundreds of men, then Su Yang of the west and Bald Liu of the north, then Tang Feng himself with 20 masters. Thousands of men flooding a restaurant to kneel to the kid Qian Biao had just called a country bumpkin. Qian Biao wet himself. His men collapsed. The waiter knelt sobbing that the boss made him do it. I had the restaurant smashed to rubble. 1 cup's 100 grand. Let's see what the whole place is worth. Qian Gui's legs shattered, Qian Biao dragged off, and the name B. Haichuan pried out of them. My mother sat on a sofa watching the entire underworld bow to her son, quietly wondering if this was really the boy she raised. Choo-Choo took her off to finish dinner elsewhere while I went to collect the real debt. At Xingyao Media, B. Haichuan had a new spine because he'd landed a powerful backer. The Gu family, represented by a bodyguard named Li Xiao, who warned us the Gu young lady was upstairs and untouchable. Even Tang Feng froze. The Gu family dwarfs everyone here. B crowed that he was the Gu family's man now, and I was finished. So I slapped him across one cheek, then the other, and asked Li Xiao, casually, whether the young lady he meant was named Gu Qing Cheng. She came down the stairs in white, like a descending immortal, and while Tang Feng and 4 dragon bosses bowed to the Ice Queen, she walked straight to me, took my arm, and told the room exactly why B Hai Chuan was doomed. Because he's my man, smash your company, kill you, whatever, because I say so. Tang Feng's jaw hit the floor. The woman who'd never so much as smiled at a man had just claimed one in front of the whole underworld. She had her own guards level Xing Yao, cut the Gu family off from B forever, snapped all 4 of his limbs, and, to win points with her future mother-in-law, ordered the Qian family to rebuild their restaurant within 3 days so she could come smash it again. Then she smiled at me, one smile that stunned even her own bodyguards, and left for Wufeng County on family business. Then I paid my helpers, in the strangest currency. I called Ma Ju over and punched him in the chest, and while his men nearly rioted, he knelt and thanked me, because that punch had cleared the blocked meridians that had stalled his cultivation for 3 years and broken him through to the next rank. Then I snapped Iron Crutch Lee's crippled leg and reset it. A wound no doctor had healed in years, fixed with a pull and a push. So the man they'd nicknamed for his limp would walk again in a month. Then I needed Bald Liu's knife-scarred arm back to full strength. 1 punch, 1 break, 1 massage, and the unruliest bosses in the province became mine for life. I slipped Tang Feng a foundation pill for his own stalled cultivation on the way out. Kindness and severity, the way he runs his own men. Then I walked home alone through the summer night, and a middle-aged woman came sprinting out of a crowd, a mob at her heels screaming, "Human trafficker! Kill her!" She grabbed my arm, begging, swearing she was innocent. Behind her, a father roared that she'd killed his daughter, and a weeping mother caught up carrying a limp 3-year-old, face ashen, not breathing. The trafficker swore she'd only bought the cute little girl a bag of jelly. The ambulance had already called it, beyond saving, but my divine sense told me otherwise. The girl's soul was still intact, pupils still dilated, a window still open. If I moved now, "Stop!" I roared, energy behind it, freezing the whole square. The child can still be saved. I took her from her sobbing mother, turned her face down, and struck her back. A wad of jelly shot out of the little girl's mouth and hit the ground. The jelly cleared her airway, but her face was still gray, so I laid her down and ran the 9 needles of resurrection while the father screamed I was desecrating a corpse. Then the police arrived, and the human trafficker turned out to be Tang Wenqi, wife of Wang Jianfeng, director of the whole city's police. She'd only bought the cute little girl a bag of jelly. And here's the man Wang Jianfeng is, even facing his own wife, even knowing the accident would cost her prison and their last hope of a child, he ordered her cuffed rather than bend the law. He couldn't look at her while he said it. Then I pulled the needles, massaged the girl's chest twice, and she sat up crying for her mother. The square went silent, then wept. Tang Wenqi walked free. Wang Jianfeng gripped my hand, and over dinner it came out. 16 years married, no child, every specialist in the country saying both were healthy. One look told me the truth. Wang was a special forces veteran with years of killing on him, a heavy yin aura, and his wife carried a yin-type physique, and the two together simply wouldn't take. Nothing a few needles and my demon refining bottle couldn't clear. I sent them home, told them to turn off their phones, and promised a healthy baby by morning. Wang became my sworn brother. He tried to pay. I told him call me Dr. Ye and I'd take it. Call me Brother Ye and take it back. He took it back. Back at the restaurant, Mom was wearing the Fulu Show jade Choo-Choo had made from my 3 stones. And her old blood market phone had died in the fall. So I handed her the custom Virtu and told her it cost $350. She fussed it was too expensive. Choo-Choo had to leave the room to laugh. A 3.5 million yuan phone, and my mother thinks she's being extravagant. Then the uncles called again. 10 million or the restaurant. And this time, I made Mom take it in front of me. So we drove to Wufeng County in the plain Passat to settle it in person. You need to know what these people are. My mother is the eldest of 6. She gave up a top exam score to work and raise them, paid every tuition, and sold herself in marriage to a county playboy for 50,000 yuan so her youngest siblings could finish university. She nursed their dying mother alone, borrowed money for the treatment while her brothers didn't show or pay a cent, and the old woman, heartbroken, willed her the ancestral house. So the moment the funeral ended, the brothers threw the outsider out and kept the house, and my mother drifted to a bun shop in the city, alone, for years. That house sits on prime land now. That's what this is really about. They met us in the yard with hugs and tears. "Big sister, we've missed you." A reunion so warm a stranger would have wept. They ignored me on purpose. The plan was to work on soft, kind mom and drive a wedge between us. Only one person there had ever been decent to me. Little cousin Yu Si-tong, 17, who pulled me aside to whisper that they'd held a meeting and were planning to squeeze me for money. I already knew. But I ruffled her hair and thanked her because she was the one Oh-young who'd trailed after me since childhood. Inside, they went to work on the phone. Mocked mom's old-fashioned handset. Bet 50 cents it was a 300 yuan freebie that came with a steel basin, the cousins riffing while the elders roared. So Yu Si-tong asked to borrow it and dialed the balance on speaker. The automated voice said, "Current balance, 3,500,000 yuan, deposited 2 days ago." The room went to stone. Then I told them what 350 meant. A 3.5 million yuan Virtu, ruby keypad, sapphire keys, 1 of 1, plus 3.5 million in credit, 7 million in a hand that had just been calling it junk. My own son buys me an iPhone, I said, but since I'm not his son, I had to spend more. The cousin who'd promised to buy Yu Si-tong the same phone turned to stone because he couldn't afford one button of it. And I held him to the promise until his father's face went purple. Then Oh-young-de got to business. Did I bring the 10 million? I said I'd brought 20. And they upsold themselves to 20 on the spot, drooling. So I opened the Passat and lined 5 suitcases in the yard, unzipped them one by one. 20 million in cash gleaming in the sun, and watched them nearly claw each other reaching for it. Then I slapped my uncle's hand off the case. I brought the money. Why would I give it to you? And I said the rest to their faces, with my mother listening. When I couldn't pay tuition and my mother stood outside your door for 3 hours, you didn't open it. When she finally got in, you shoved her out so hard she fell. The last 1,000 yuan she sold her own blood at the hospital to raise. Half a month ago she was dying in the ICU, 50,000 for the surgery. And when I called you, you hung up. You told me to get lost, and one of you said you'd burn paper money for her after she died. And now you want compensation because your sister passed? From the sister who paid all your tuition and married a monster to fund it. There's no such custom in China. Sue me. Report me. If a court finds me liable, I'll pay 10 times 20 million. Otherwise, you don't get a single yuan. My mother heard, for the first time, everything I'd endured while she was unconscious, and she wept. Then an old Santana pulled in, and out stepped Shi Jianying, the retired principal of the county middle school, the man who'd once cut my tuition by 2,000 yuan. I'd called him, and I helped him load all 5 suitcases, 20 million, into his car, a donation to the school he'd been fretting couldn't scrape 5,000 together to fix its roof. The uncle stood frozen until the Santana was gone, then stamped and screamed that I'd given away their 20 million. My mother, who'd just heard the whole story, said flatly that the money was mine, not hers, and it was none of her business. Then I opened the Passat one more time and pulled out a suitcase for Yu Si-tong. Second aunt didn't lend my mother a single yuan, but Xiao Tong secretly gave me 500 of her own. So here's 5 million back, and I'll cover her for life. Because the rule is simple. Anyone who ever showed me a kindness, I repay 10-fold, 100-fold, 1,000-fold. And anyone who only ever gave me the word bastard and a bloody nose gets exactly what they gave. Her mother nearly fainted with regret that the girl hadn't handed me 5,000 back then. The 3 brothers went gray. And Oh-young-de, out of angles, played his last card. How exactly did a college kid who hasn't graduated suddenly come into this kind of money? Sounding very much like a man about to make an accusation. Then they invented a story. There was, supposedly, an ancestral treasure chest. That's how the bun seller got rich. She'd stolen the family fortune and probably killed Oh-young-hui to keep the secret, and their son was the new police chief. So confess or go to prison. Oh-young-shan pointed at mom's Fulu show jewelry and swore grandma had promised it to her as a dowry. So I pulled up the Chin Group news page and held it to her face. This necklace and these rings are a product line under 2 weeks old. When did grandma show you? Did she visit you in a dream? Oh-young-shan, caught, tried to claim it was a similar style and reached for my mother's necklace anyway, calling me a bastard. So I slapped her across the yard, false lashes and all. Then again when she got up, her father charged with a stick. I caught it, kicked him down, slapped Oh-young-do, the cousin who'd bullied me since I was 8, twice, and dropped him. Then I twisted the hardwood stick to splinters in one hand and told the room, anyone who calls me bastard again eats the stick. The family that had bullied a submissive orphan his whole life stood frozen because the orphan had changed. They played their last card. Oh-young-do called the Wuhu Chamber of Commerce, Wufeng County's underworld, and a bruiser called Black Bear rolled up with 8 men to shake me down for the treasure. I dropped all 8, then knocked Black Bear, a Bajituan brawler whose shoulder charge snaps bowl-thick trees, flat on his own charge and put a foot on his chest. He called his boss. And the boss, Tong Jian, the underground emperor of the county, arrived with 80 knife men and ordered me to kneel. Right as my phone rang, it was Tong Feng, ecstatic, broken through to profound rank on my pill, calling to thank me and buy me a drink. I mentioned I was in Wufeng County. "Oh," he said, "we have some influence there, run by a distant nephew, Tong Jian. Treat him like your own son, and if he ever displeases you, I'll break his legs myself." I looked at the man ordering me to my knees. "Tong Jian of the Wuhu Chamber of Commerce?" "That's him. Why?" "He's standing here making me kneel." Tang Feng nearly detonated. 2 minutes later, Tang Jian's special ringtone, the Tang Patriarch's line, went off, and Tang Feng screamed down it that this was the benefactor even grandfather calls Mr. Ye, kneel and beg or bring your head to the family. The underground emperor of the county dropped to his knees in the dirt before a college kid, his 80 men following, while the Ouyangs stood there watching their hired muscle bow to their target. I let him up, told him to keep his men off my mother, and had him bring people to the funeral the next day. The uncles regrouped at Ouyang De's, minus Ouyang Fei, who'd wisely fled with her 5 million before they could split it, and Ouyang Shan produced her ace, her rich boyfriend, Chen Feng, a short, greasy heir whose father runs Peng Cheng Group, a Gu family subsidiary that happens to handle the Old Town demolition. Chen Feng promised to divert the house's relocation compensation to them with a word, and dropped a bomb. The Gu family's eldest daughter was coming to Wufeng County the next day to inspect Peng Cheng. "Get her involved," he said, "and crushing Yi Bufan is nothing." They toasted their coming fortune, none of them knowing the Gu eldest daughter was already mine. The next morning was the funeral, and Ouyang Hui's husband, Kang Lei, a connected local contractor, met us with a mob and a slap aimed at my mother, which I caught midair. His terms: "Mom and I wear mourning clothes and kneel to see off his wife and son, plus 10 million each, for the sister who'd extorted my mother and died in her stolen clothes." I told him plainly whose greed killed them, and that we were leaving. His men closed in, and Tang Jian's black-suited crew stormed the hall. Kang Lei, delighted, rushed to shake the Wuhu president's hand, and Tang Jian walked straight past him to bow to me. "I'm late, punish me, Lord Yi." Kang Lei's whole world tilted. Tang Jian cleared the hall so my mother could burn incense for the sister who'd never once earned it, because that's the size of her heart, and then we walked out. And at the door, Tang Jian took a call and went pale. Peng Cheng Group had rolled bulldozers up to the old house, my mother's house. No demolition agreement signed, for a forced teardown. Tang Jian could handle any developer in the county except this one, because Peng Cheng is the Gu family, and even the Tang family doesn't cross the Gu family. I sent Mom to a hotel suite and went to handle it myself. In the car, I called Gu Qingcheng and asked, point blank, if Peng Cheng Group was hers. It was. A small Gu subsidiary in Wufeng County. She went cold instantly and offered to call off the demolition, but I told her not to bother. We were leaving anyway. So she wired me 10 million in demolition compensation on the spot, more than the house was worth, and then, nervous, told me she was already on her way to Wufeng and wanted to buy my mother dinner that night and introduce herself. The Ice Queen, terrified of meeting a mother-in-law. Meanwhile, Chen Feng and his father Chen Haiju, who runs Peng Cheng, rolled bulldozers up to the old house and, to show off for Ouyang Shan, illegally handed the uncles 6 million in compensation for a house that legally wasn't theirs. I let them flatten it and drove off without a word, which the uncles read as terror. They split the 6 million, blew it all in one afternoon on cars and gold and designer suits, and swaggered off to a celebration dinner Chen Feng had booked at Wufeng's finest restaurant, which happened to be the restaurant Gu Qingcheng had booked out entirely. The uncles and the Chens got turned away at the door, and when the hostess wouldn't budge, Chen Haiju slapped her, because surely the Gu young lady would have told him if she were in town. Then Mom and I walked up, and Gu Qingcheng came flying out in white, and while Chen Haiju scrambled to greet his boss, she walked past him to my mother, cheeks flushed, and managed a nervous, "Hello, Auntie." The whole yard reeled, the coldest woman in the province, bowing and calling the bun seller Auntie. And Ouyang Shan couldn't help herself. She sneered that no matter how grand I acted, the demolition money was theirs, and I hadn't gotten a yuan. Thanks for the reminder, cousin. So I said it out loud. Gu Qingcheng had already paid the 10 million demolition compensation into my account, for my mother's house, legally in her name. So what, exactly, were the Chens doing handing 6 million of Gu family money to people with no property deed? Chen Haiju went white. Gu Qingcheng's face turned to ice. She slapped him across it, fired father and son on the spot, and gave them 3 days to return 6 million or spend their lives in prison. Then she took my mother's hand and went in to a warm dinner, cold to the whole world and soft as spring with Mom. Behind us, the karma cascaded. The Chens, needing that 6 million back, cornered the uncles, who'd already spent it, stripped them of their new watches, gold, bags, and suits down to their underwear, beat them bloody, and sent them home to raise the rest. A few hours of feeling rich, invoiced in full, and Chen Feng, blaming the whole disaster on his jinx girlfriend, grabbed Ouyang Shan by the hair and beat her too, while her uncles watched and did nothing. Dinner ran late and happy. Mom, in the car after, sighed that she loved Ching Chung, and also loved Choo Choo, and couldn't choose. So why didn't I just marry them both? She wouldn't mind extra daughters-in-law. Before I could answer, a Porsche whipped a U-turn straight into oncoming traffic and rammed us. Out stepped Chen Jiao Jiao, Chen Haiju's daughter, though I didn't know it yet, who screamed that in Wufeng County, she is the traffic law, that a Passat has no right to exist near her Porsche, and demanded 100,000 or she'd smash my car. Then she slapped my mother. That was the end of my patience. I slapped her across the street, and when she got up cursing, I slapped her again and again, one per crime, for hitting my mother, for driving the wrong way, for thinking a hat makes you a queen, until Mom pulled me off. Jiao Jiao called in a dozen thugs to smash the Passat to scrap, crowing that nobody in Wufeng crosses the Chen family. When she named her father Chen Haiju and her brother Chen Feng, I almost laughed. The Chens really can't stop finding me. Then Tang Jian's convoy rolled in. He'd been quietly tailing me since he learned I was the Gu young lady's man, and now, with Chen Haiju freshly fired from the Gu family, the untouchable Chens meant nothing. Smash her car, I said. Black Bear flipped the Porsche onto its roof. Jiao Jiao shrieked for her father to come wipe out the Wuhu chamber, and called Chen Haiju, who was, at that very moment, selling off the family cars to scrape together the 6 million he owed, including, as it happened, her Porsche. Chen Haiju came roaring up thinking he could squeeze the vandal using the Gu name nobody knew he'd lost. Saw it was me, and folded like paper. He slapped his own daughter to the ground, beat her for the U-turn, then handed me the keys to the brand new Range Rover the uncles had bought with the stolen money, as compensation for my 200,000 Passat. A 3 million car for a beater, offered with a pleading smile, because with Gu Ching Cheng behind me, he didn't dare do anything but overpay. I patted his cheek, told him to drive safer next time, and left. 2 cars gone, 6 million still owed. The Chen family was eating itself. The next night was a class reunion, and it dropped 2 problems in my lap. The first was Joy, Gao Daqiang, my childhood best friend, tall as a tower and honest to a fault, the guy who mailed me money at university until I made him stop. He crushed me in a bear hug the second he saw me. The second was Dread, because his new girlfriend, Zhao Zhaodi, was a seduction cultist, not a crude one. Her allure was so refined, she didn't have to try. And when I scanned Gao Daqiang, I found the truth under his skin. A rare Yang attribute physique, and someone had sealed the meridians in his lower belly, shutting off his manhood while force-feeding his Yang to the bursting point. A breeding method. Pump the essence to its peak, lock it in so none escapes, then drain it all at once for a massive cultivation leap, and leave him a shriveled corpse. Somebody was fattening my brother for slaughter. I didn't tip my hand. You find the hand behind it first. Inside, the snobs held court. Yang Jinsai, who runs the county's dirtiest sauna. Sun Dongwei, rich chamber president's son. And Cao Robing, the class beauty who'd once chased me and now hung off Sun's arm. They mocked me and Gao Daqiang as born poor. I gave Yang Jinsai one warning as an old classmate. His father's crippling accident was karma from that filthy sauna. His luck was black. And if he didn't give the money away, he'd lose it all and end in prison. He laughed and threatened to beat me. Then Sun Dongwei, wanting to preen for Zhao Xiaodi, invented a guess the wealth game. Everyone lays their phone and car on the table. His gold iPhone, Cao Robing's matching one, Yang Jinsai's Huawei, the whole room oohing over 12,000 yuan handsets. Then they demanded I show mine. Sure, I had a 100 yuan brick, so I laid down the Virtu, 358,000 yuan, worth more than all their phones stacked together, times 10. Cao Robing had called it a no-name fake 10 seconds before the phone shop girl named the price. Then they moved to cars, Yang Jinsai swearing he'd call me Dad if the poor kid had a car. Right as the head of security jogged in, bowing, to hand me the keys to my brand new top-spec Range Rover, which flattened his Highlander and son's Mercedes both. Gao Daqiang, the only person in that room genuinely glad I'd done well, made Yang Jinsai keep his word and call us both Dad. So Yang Jinsai did what his type always does. Called Black Bear of the Wuhu chamber to come break the 2 poor bastards. Sun Dongwei offered me one mercy, kneel and apologize, or suffer. Yang Jinsai upped it to Grandpa. I poured Gao Daqiang and myself a cup of tea and waited. Black Bear kicked the door in with a dozen men. And the first thing he did, before Yang Jinsai finished pointing me out, was slap Yang Jinsai clean across the room. Because Black Bear had learned, the hard way, exactly who I was. Because Tang Jian had said Black Bear to tail me after the car business. And the moment Yang Jinsai pointed me out as a target, Black Bear knocked him flat and asked whether I wanted the fool's arms broken or his body in the river. The room reeled. The Wuhu chamber's top enforcer groveling to the poor kid. I waved it off. Don't bother, someone's coming to arrest him. And on cue, 3 officers walked in and cuffed Yang Jin-sai. His sauna had burned down an hour before, 5 dead, and as owner, he was liable. Every word I'd warned him about, come true. House fire and prison both. He dropped to his knees, begging me to save him, offering any money. Too late. I'd warned him for old time's sake. He chose the sauna over the warning, and there's no cure for regret. They dragged him out. Then Sun Dongwei got a call and lit up. His father, Sun Yongjiang, was about to take over Pengcheng from the disgraced Chen Haiju, invited by the Gu young lady herself, he bragged, and last night's whole restaurant banquet had been for the Sun family. I laughed and asked if he was sure Gu Qingcheng had invited him. Then Zhang Linman walked in, the hotel's own manager, my old classmate, and greeted me first, warmly, ignoring the Sun air entirely, before she casually thanked me for booking her restaurant out the night before. The room froze. Because it wasn't Sun's banquet, it was mine. She said it plainly. Zhao Fan is Miss Gu's boyfriend. Sun Dongwei's whole boast collapsed on the man it was invented to impress. And in she came, Gu Qingcheng in white, cold to the room, and there to meet my classmates. And, incidentally, to interview a Pengcheng GM candidate, Sun Yongjiang. She asked what I thought of him. So I mentioned, mildly, that his son had just told the whole room she'd begged his father to take the job. Her face iced over. She rejected him on the spot, and her guards dragged the father out, where he beat his son bloody for a foul mouth that had cost him a lifetime's ambition. I bought the rest of the class a real feast, Moutai and Lafitte, and let the reunion end well for the ones who'd never sneered. But Gao Daqiang was still poisoned, so I told him quietly he was fated to marry. Just not this woman, not this year. Holding back that Zhao Xiaodi wasn't his destiny, but his disaster. Then she took him to a reclusive master doctor on the city outskirts, and I marked him with my divine sense and followed. The old woman who took his pulse and fed him a bowl of black medicine was a mask. When Gao Daqiang went rigid, unable to move anything but his mouth, she tore off the disguise, a young beauty in red, and Zhao Xiaodi bowing to her, calling her master. Yin San Yang, of the Yinji sect, an evil seduction cult my sect wiped out 1,000 years ago. And here was a surviving remnant. For over a year, she'd used Zhao Xiaodi to seal my brother's manhood and force-feed his rare yang physique to the breaking point. And now she meant to drain him to a husk, tan his skin into a corpse puppet, and break through on his essence. My best friend, told the whole time by the woman he loved that she was fighting to cure him, learning it was all a farm. I kicked the door in. Zhao Xiaodi tried to lock it, and I put my foot through her core, crippling her cult charms to nothing forever. Yin San Yang smiled and sealed my chest acupoint like I was another toy, then found she couldn't move, because my sect knows every trick the Yinji ever had, and hers don't touch me. But she burned half her own blood with a blood transformation technique to break the seal, and vanished in a reek of blood, because she felt the murder in me. I let her run. Gao Daqiang was about to burst. Then I turned that whole scheme against her. Gao's meridians were flooded past bursting with yang, so I fed him the mysterious yin pill my demon refining bottle had condensed out of the community's death cold. Pure yin, deadly to a normal man, and exactly what his overloaded body needed. Then, instead of just venting the yang the cult had spent years and a fortune cultivating, I ran him through the Chen Kun body refining art, the technique that forges yin and yang straight into the flesh. Everything Yin San Yang built for herself poured into my brother instead. His skin flared red on one side, ink black on the other, then settled with a faint metal sheen. When it was done, the poor country boy who'd mailed me his last yuan at university stood there, a martial artist of the great perfection. A body so hard, I snapped a fruit knife on his stomach. So strong, his friendly shoulder punch put me through a wall, and his next punch brought the house down on the buried Zhao Xiaodi. He dug her out to close the book on it, then cut her off cold. You're you, I'm me, there's nothing between us, and didn't look back. He's an orphan of a sort too, never met his father, raised alone by his mother, Xia Zihan, which is half of why we've always been brothers. So I told him to come to Jiangnan City with me. He's a fighter now, a county's too small, our mothers can keep each other company, and we can watch each other's backs. He said he'd talk to his mom and call. Meanwhile, the uncles were meeting again at Ouyang De's, and this time, there was a fourth man at the table, in a police uniform, Ouyang De's son, the county's new police chief, Ouyang Da. That fourth man, the new police chief Ouyang Da, was the family's whole plan. Wait out his probation, then arrest me on a fabricated murder charge, that I'd hired a hitman to kill Ouyang Hui. And while I rotted in a cell, terrify my mother into signing over the restaurant and 100 million IOU. He grabbed me in the hotel lot, and I put my own wrists out for the cuffs because a trap only springs if you step in it. While they hauled me off, the uncles crowded my mother in the suite, showed her the video of me in handcuffs, and slid the papers across. an IOU, and buried under it, a confession that I'd murdered their sister. She was crying, pen in hand, ready to sell everything to free her son. Because that's my mother. Wait, you can't sign that. Wang Jianfeng walked in. The director of the entire Jiangnan City Police, who'd come to Wufeng County only because his wife thought she was pregnant and couldn't wait for me to check. He'd heard through the open door. He knocked the uncle's flat, read the murder frame in the papers, and phoned Han Zhaixing, the Wufeng County Police Director, Ouyang Da's own boss, who came running to salute a man far above him and cuffed the whole Ouyang family for extortion and framing, their police chief's son's name doing nothing at all. Meanwhile, in the interrogation room, Ouyang Da had switched off the cameras and sent everyone out. Then pulled 2 stun guns off the wall, 500,000 volts each, to make me sign. He jabbed them into me, and found his handcuffs open, the batons in my hands, and 1,000,000 volts going the other way. I made him write the whole confession himself. The false arrest, the frame, the extortion of my mother, every count. And when Wang and Han kicked the door in, they found me sipping tea and the new police chief on the floor with his hair standing straight up, holding his own signed testimony. He clung to my leg begging, "Cousin, please." To the Ouyang family, I was always an ant they'd have crushed long ago if not for my mother. Now they could rot, all of them, for a number too big to walk back. Then I checked my sister-in-law's pulse and gave Wang Jianfeng the news he'd waited 16 years for. Good news and bad, I said. The good, buy diapers. The bad, buy 2 sets, 1 blue, 1 pink. Twins, a dragon and a phoenix, a boy and a girl. Tang Wenqi wept into her husband's arms, and I had another sworn brother for life. Home in Jiangnan City, I settled Gao Daqiang and his mother Xia Zihan in. Zia to keep my mother company, and my newly forged, blade-proof best friend as the restaurant's security captain. So the next Yinji nun who comes calling meets a fist that brings down houses. And then, the last thread of the day, the one still hanging. Chu-Chu called me to treat a patient. Gao Jiajun, one of Hong Kong's 10 richest men, Asia's jewelry king, struck by an illness no doctor on earth could name. Home in his Yunding villa right next to mine. It wasn't charity. Her grandfather had set a succession test, her against her cousin, Qin Guowei. Whoever landed Gao Jiajun as a partner and opened Qin's jewelry in Hong Kong becomes the next head of the family. Of the city's 3 great healers, Cao was in seclusion for everyone but me. Old Lu was dead, and Qin Guowei had already grabbed the third, Lin Pingtao. At the villa, Gao Jiajun's wife, Qiao Lina, took one look at my youth and sneered. A sharp-tongued woman who'd risen from nobody to mistress of half the Gao fortune. And Gao Jiajun, who'd come home to Jiangnan specifically for traditional medicine, was insulted that they'd sent a boy. They blacklisted Chu-Chu on the spot, killing her deal. Then Qin Guowei swept in with Lin Pingtao, painting Chu-Chu to the room as a girl blinded by love. Lin took the tycoon's pulse and pronounced it a simple cold. 3 doses, 3 days. I'd already scanned him. It wasn't a cold, and it wasn't simple. So on my way out the door, I gave Gao Jiajun the calendar of his death. Lower belly pain today, chest pain in 3 days, whole body agony in 7, blood from the mouth in 10, and in half a month, dead with blood running from all 7 orifices. Only I can cure it, no one else. When you want to live, bring your wife and kneel. Qiao Lina hurled a teacup and screamed for the butler to beat me. Gao Jiajun stopped him with one word, wait. Because a dying man remembers a specific prophecy differently than a threat. But his pride made him let me walk, so I walked. In the car, Chu-Chu apologized, deflated. She'd lost the whole competition in 1 afternoon, and she'd never once been able to beat the cousin the grandparents doted on simply for being a boy. It's not the presidency she wants, she told me. It's not losing to him. I told her not to worry. Lin Pingtao can't cure Gao Jiajun. Nobody alive can but me. And in half a month, the Gao family will come begging her to become the Qin president. She believed me, because she always does now. And there was a secret under that villa I kept to myself because it wasn't mine to spend. My divine sense had read Gao Jiajun's ruined lower abdomen meridian. The man has been infertile for 20 years, since a knife took it in the robbery that made his fortune. But 3 years ago, Qiao Lina, a lover among many, gave him a son, DNA test and all, and rose overnight to legal wife and half his empire. Gao Jiajun is raising another man's boy and paying for a ripe test to prove it's his. Not my business. The world is full of men fathering other men's children. I filed it away and let it lie. So look how far the road ran. A few weeks ago, I stood on a curb, broke enough to throw myself under a stranger's car for 50,000 yuan to save my dying mother. Now 4 dragon bosses kneel when I walk in. A police director calls me brother. The ice queen of the Gu family calls me her man in front of a whole city. And the richest man in Hong Kong is 14 days from crawling to my door. I've got a villa on the peak, a divine artifact in my pocket, and a best friend who can punch through walls. The bun seller's adopted bastard turned out to run the bills. But the last two people at that Western restaurant weren't done with us. As Choo Choo and I got out of the car, a man in a sharp suit greeted her by name. Mu Gao Feng, her childhood friend, back after 3 years, now captain of the Special Intelligence Bureau's Jiangnan Brigade and a yellow rank fighter, returned to the city, he said, only for her. His deputy Guan Chao was already calling her sister-in-law. Mu Gao Feng looked me over, decided I was the driver, and when Choo Choo took my arm and named me her boyfriend, told me flatly to leave her. Sole Mu heir, youngest captain in the bureau, above all local rules. What could I possibly have to compare? I sighed and agreed I was no match, but explained my problem. Choo Choo's just so clingy, I can't shake her off no matter how I try. Then I put my arm around her waist and walked her inside while the youngest captain in the bureau stood in the lot with his veins bulging. He didn't get rough. That would cost him her good opinion. Instead, he decided to win her the classic way. Stage a danger only he can save her from. Not thugs, too small. Pick his own elite men, dress them as kidnappers, have them seize Kin Choo Choo so Captain Mu can ride in as the hero while the pretty boy boyfriend stands useless. Make it real, he told Guan Chao. Make it big. And he didn't know that across the city, in a half-built shell on the outskirts, a dozen hooded men were finishing dinner. The Cobra mercenary group out of Southeast Asia, led by a man rumored to be an exiled Chinese master whose every opponent is dead. Their employer had paid 5 times the going rate, 20 million, for one job. Seize the young miss of Qin's group, film something that would destroy her name forever, and post it. One target, 2 separate hunts closing on her in the same dark. Qin Choo Choo was the most wanted woman in the city that night, and she had no idea. And neither, yet, did I. Ask me what happens when a fake kidnapping and a real one collide over the woman I love. And I'll tell you the part where I stopped being polite. But that's the next round, and it's going to be a very long night.